Folks, Donald Trump might be going to jail. Okay? In the funniest way possible, too. Like, he might be getting arrested. Not going to jail, but he might be getting indicted, which means he might get fingerprinted, which means there will be a mugshot, which means, like, there could be a perp walk. Now, obviously, that shit is crazy. That's going to happen possibly tomorrow. Okay? But I will give you details on how this came to be, why it's happening, why it might not really happen, and also the reactions from the right and also the reactions from libs. But I think I speak for all of us when I say that it would be wonderful content, so I really, really, really hope it happens. Like, oh my fucking God, the excitement, dude. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. The reasons as to why he's going to jail are completely irrelevant to me. The reasons why he's being brought up on charges or might be indicted are completely irrelevant to me in general, because, like, you know, they're kind of bullshit. Like, I'll be honest. They're not like the worst thing he's done. But let's be real. He has a long laundry list of reasons as to why he should be in jail. Okay, so this is the funniest one to actually throw him in some kind of like, involuntary hold, paying hush money for Stormy Daniels and trying to quiet her. But of course, Trump is going to do what Trump does. What does that mean? Well, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is Donald Trump is like very openly trying to game the system once again. He has been asking his followers to basically riot, okay? He's been popping the fuck off since this decision was announced. Let's take a look at how liberal media is reacting to it, though.
Again, with the news of a possible indictment against former President Donald Trump over the weekend, the former president claimed he will be arrested tomorrow, although there is no evidence that that is going to happen, and no official has said that that is true. Now he's facing criticism for calling on his supporters to protest, raising concerns that his words could lead to violence that are very similar to what happened on January 6th. We all remember that day. Robert Costa is outside.
How can I forget? I mean, that was liberal 9/11. You know what I mean? That was like worse than 9/11. Multiple 9/11s worth of things happened on that day. You know, so.
Court. Bob, good morning to you. And we understand that there may be additional testimony today.
Good morning, Gail. That's correct. The CBS News has learned that the grand jury may hear today from an additional witness, Bob Costello, a former legal advisor to Michael Cohen, a key witness in this investigation. We're told that Mr. Costello might question the credibility of Mr. Cohen, and this all comes after the fallout over the weekend from former President Trump's comments.
This is selective prosecution. If I were President Trump, I'd take this all the way to the damn Supreme Court.
Former President Donald Trump and his allies on the political and legal warpath over the weekend as Trump faces down a possible indictment in Manhattan criminal court. On Saturday, Trump claimed he will be arrested on Tuesday of next week and urged his supporters to protest and take our nation back. He then urged in a follow-up, we must save America. Protest, protest, protest.
Like, he went all caps on this one, and you kind of know where he's going. If he's going all caps, you know shit's popping off. Also, what a fucking ugly-ass PFP, Jesus Christ. So, this DA is a George Soros-backed DA, and he's also a thug, is what Donald Trump called him. And also an anti-white racist. You guys understand what's going on, right? I mean, he's black, okay? I right? Isn't that? Yeah, he's just. I mean, you know, it's not exactly subtle. Like when you call a black DA an anti-white racist and a thug, okay? Oh, he called him an animal too. So. You know what's going on. Yeah, oh yeah, he said the T word. He said the T word and he said the A word. He called him an animal and a thug. So, you know what's going on. Okay? So it's so crazy that the best they could get him on was a misdemeanor, honestly embarrassing. Yeah, well, it's not embarrassing. It's more so expected because this, remember, we talk about this all the time. This system is designed to protect the wealthy, okay? These laws are created in a way to shelter the wealthy from any kind of legal scrutiny whatsoever. So for that reason, especially if you are like, capitulating to the needs of the wealthy, like Donald Trump certainly did with his massive tax cuts and whatnot, they're not gonna turn around and fucking punish him. You know what I mean? You're not punishing the guy who gave the fattest tax cuts since Ronald Reagan to corporations and to the extremely wealthy in this country. It's not happening, right? So the irony of this is that, like, you got a DA that, wants to make a name for themselves or whatever. So they're utilizing the Stormy Daniels case to make some waves. Do I think this is all that serious? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Do I still think that it'll make great content if it did happen? Abso-fucking-lutely yes. I am fully in support, okay, of what is happening here, regardless of the fact that I am also fully aware that this is like literally the tiniest thing that you could nab Donald Trump on, okay? Maybe even better that it's a super tiny thing, because that adds to the juxtaposition. That's really pissing people off, okay? So yeah, let's keep going.
CBS News has learned that some Trump allies privately debated over his call for protests.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Since it has echoes of Trump's call for protests on January 6, 2021, the day the Capitol was attacked. In response to Trump's post, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg told colleagues in an email that safety is the top priority, and we do not tolerate attempts to intimidate our office or threaten the rule of law.
But they are definitely doing that. Like, Trump is definitely doing that. Ironic because it's just, nothing is going to come out of this. It's just content for Trump, I think. That's my speculation. Because it's, one, a tiny, minuscule charge, not as significant. It has already galvanized every single Republican, even like not never Trumpers, but like people who want to run in opposition to Donald Trump. Central Committee brought up a side point about not only Mike Pence, but also DeSantis too. I was going to talk about Mike Pence myself. One side point is the fact that DeSantis is rushing to Trump's defense is proof that he's a loser cuck with 0% of winning the Republican nomination. If the shoe was on the other foot, Trump would be calling DeSantis a criminal and going all in, bashing him. Yes, but also no. Here's what I mean by this, okay? They all recognize that they are Trump is their daddy, okay? They all recognize that, like, the fan base loves Donald Trump, but they also recognize that this is, like, a really great opportunity to cut, like, the elitist DAs that are black and backed by George Soros, that don't care about the violent crime that's happening in New York every single fucking day, and care about, like, nonsensical bullshit to make waves, and to grossly weaponize the criminal justice system against Donald Trump and also wealthy white people who just want to, secure a meaningful existence for white babies in this country, 14-word shit. So that's why they're hamming this narrative. Now, of course, ironic because like violent crime, historic crime in New York, like there's no fucking crime wave, dog. That shit is made up, as I talked about over and over again. Crime is a permanent staple in fucking city living, in living in America in general. Its manifestation is due to material conditions. Obviously, as long as we don't solve those issues, as long as we do not give adequate material restitution and create like a safety net, and basically have like a starting point that's like pretty comparable to everywhere else around the country, it's not going to happen. There's always going to be crime, okay? But all big cities have crime. Now, what you're supposed to do is basically look at crime across the board, and if you look at crime rates across the board, whether it be violent crime, property crime, whatever kind of crime you're talking about, that is significantly lower, okay? It's just significantly lower than like 2 decades ago, and it's been consistently getting lower and lower and lower. So this notion that like crime is historically high is ridiculous. It's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. It's like literally globally low too. It's not even just New York City. And if you look at the historic New York City crime data, the cops themselves release crime statistics. And if you look at the historic data from, let's look at the major felony offenses, right? 2,630 murder, non-negligible manslaughter. Oh, total 7 major felony, 184 down to 126,000. Okay, like this is from 2000 to 2022. All crime is lower in comparison. If you go back to the fucking 90s, that number is even higher. Okay, so all crime is technically lower than it was 20 years ago, lower than it was 10 years ago, lower than it was, especially lower than it was when it was at its peak. Okay? Why is crime going down if income inequality is increasing? Well, because when income inequality is increasing, if you successfully fucking push every single poor person away in the most violent means away from cities, okay? That's one reason how crime can technically get lower. The other is no more lead in your gasoline, okay? Because you have no way to describe. I mean, this is all speculation, okay? But there's basically no way to attribute almost a global fucking a global decline in crime rates other than something that touches everyone. You know what I mean? Lead poisoning in your paint, lead poisoning in your gas, lead poisoning in general. That's like a big part of it. Anyway. And yet the New York Dems ran on a rampant crime wave narrative. Fucking worthless libs in New York pushing a conservative talking point. Exactly. Higher than last year and 2 years ago? Interesting. I wonder how crime went fucking higher than last year and 2 years ago. Hey, man, I don't know if you know this, but there was such a thing called COVID lockdowns, okay? I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot less foot traffic was happening. And on top of that, there was some level of government assistance. I guess you forgot that COVID was a thing, but that could have been part of the reason for that. But again, this is a multifaceted issue. I'm just giving you the higher, the snapshot, right? It's going to be reductive. It's deliberately reductive if you're wondering why I'm doing this. But ultimately, year over year, crime has been going down steadily. Yes. I'll come back later. This fuckery is too much for International World Happiness Day. Okay. Roe v. Wade is not the reason for New York, guys. Calm down. Please. I know everyone watched that one fucking Freakonomics episode that's almost eugenics related. And everyone keeps saying Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade. It's motherfucker, we're talking about New York, dog. You can get abortions. New York is the abortion factory, okay? Chill. That's not, calm down, okay? That's not a contributing factor to New York crime rates is significantly increasing or diminishing one way or the other, okay? Also, that would probably take a little bit longer to kick in, don't you think? Think about it. Anyway, regardless, where were we? Okay, so yeah, crime has increased. Okay, crime has increased in New York for sure. Post-COVID boom for murder and also other major felony offenses, right? And that's going to come with the territory with income inequality in general. Why are you vehemently arguing that it's not Roe v. Wade when there are many people here telling you the opposite? What? It's literally abortion. Legalizing abortion led to crime rates dropping worldwide. I think it's important to bang on reproductive justice. Okay. The reason why I'm not banging on the legalizing abortion drum is because it's like a little bit. I don't want to get into this. Okay. I'm not going to have this conversation. It's not one instance. It might have played a part in it, but it's like you're making an argument that like criminalizing abortion again is increasing crime when it would take, 18 to 20 fucking years for the crime rate to increase. This is the part of the conversation that I'm talking about where abortion would not have been a consideration anyway, because we're talking about New York, and the evisceration of Roe v. Wade protections is not important for New York, because your clinics are protected in New York. Okay, this is a state by state problem. Unless you literally think like in New York they have genuine abortion restrictions, and also in New York 1-year-olds that were born after COVID are doing property crime, like they're doing grand larceny. Okay, this part of the conversation I'm talking about, it doesn't make sense. Also, it's a bit of a eugenics argument, and I don't like it anyway. Okay, for that reason, it's giving eugenicists sweaty. Increases crime because people will illegally kill the babies. Yeah. It's called the terrible twos for a reason. Yeah, it's the terrible twos because it's called the terrible twos because they're doing like crazy shit. They're doing grand larceny. Oh, ShotSpotter? Oh no, they're doing that in fucking Portland too? That's the worst, dude. Bro, this shit sucks. ShotSpotter is like awful for Chicago. This shit is so fucking, oh yeah. I don't want to even get into that right now. Oh no, of course they're trying to get that shit installed in Portland. So liberal, right? Remember how fucking liberal these places are? And then their police forms. Like all of these cities still have the police department. You know what I mean? You look at Portland, Oregon, and it's like, oh, they have to be like, everyone has to be non-binary to enter the state. And then you literally look at their police department and it's like, we love Hitler. Like they have like a Hitler brigade and specifically like a Proud Boy communications correspondent within the fucking department, you know? It's always like that. It's like, oh man, Portland, Oregon, they're all gay there, right? They're all non-binary, right? They're so woke. And it's like, their police department has like a Hitler caucus, okay? I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. The part where the Portland Police Department actually communicates with the Proud Boys, when the Proud Boys are like, whenever there's like a Proud Boy with an arrest warrant out for themselves, by the way, isn't a lie. That is not an exaggeration. Anyway.
In New York, Trump's potential 2024 rivals are also reacting. Former Vice President Mike Pence spoke out against...
He's a bitch. They're all bitches, dude. They can't even use this to their advantage. They're all such bitches. Like, Trump has the entirety of the Republican Party by the fucking balls, okay? I'm telling you. They got nothing. They got no Riz. They got no fucking Riz. They got nothing going for them, okay?
any possible indictment in this case.
It just feels like a politically charged prosecution here.
And even some Republican critics of Trump say it could play to his political advantage.
A lot of the Democrats have misplayed this in terms of building sympathy for the former president.
The Manhattan District Attorney is investigating alleged hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels on Trump's behalf by his former attorney Michael Cohen at a crucial moment in the 2016 campaign. Trump denies any wrongdoing, but Cohen's lawyer Lanny Davis told CBS News his client testified truthfully to the grand jury earlier this month, and now it is in their hands.
if there was any political motivation to prevent the alleged affair with Stormy Daniels from coming out right before the election, and a jury is to conclude that there is any political motivation, then I think that's the key issue.
I mean, of course, dude. Yes, I'm sorry. This is definitely political. Like, anyone that says that this is not like a political thing is silly. But like, I don't even give a shit at this point. It is just funny and it's awesome. And I am totally on board with it. I know a lot of people are going to turn around and say, oh my God, Hasan, how dare you? This is going to like improve Trump's numbers. Yeah, it will. For sure. Because it's going to be nothing. It's going to fizzle out, I think. And I might be totally wrong on this. Okay? Do I give a shit? Do I give a shit about anything that puts him in jail? Absolutely not. It's awesome. It would be great. It would be fucking great. Okay? It would be great. He deserves to be in jail. Most American politicians deserve to be in jail. Okay? So if you're the president, like, yeah, that definitely means you too. Like, people will be like, what about Obama? Like, fuck yeah, dude. What about Obama? Why is Obama not in jail? You know what I mean? He killed an American citizen with a drone strike extrajudiciously. You know, that's jailable in my opinion. So, you know, before we get to like Libya, you know, before we talk about how Libya is like open air slave markets now in Libya. Shouts out to Obama and Hillary Clinton for that one. That was fire. Anyway, I'm just saying, most American presidents and most American politicians have done like jail-worthy shit. So yeah, I'm not gonna fucking sit here and act like that's bad. I don't give a fuck if it's political. It is, and I don't even think he's gonna go to jail eventually. But it'll be funny. It'll be funny to perp walk him. It'll be really funny when the right wing gets agitated. Okay, when they go fucking bananas mode. These guys look for victimhood more than anything else. There's nothing that, especially like relatively well off, middle America, small business owning, Republican white guys, or just Republicans in general, there's nothing more they love than being perceived as a victim. So this gives them an opportunity to say, oh, they're coming after the whites, okay? They're coming after the white savior, which means like, you know, they're going to come after us next. So they can like cut the narrative that like they're just being prosecuted for existing or some shit, right? And it'll be funny.
Trump's lawyer, Joe Tacopina, tells CBS News that if charged, the Trump legal team will be very aggressive in combating the indictment and questioning its credibility and scope. They will also question the credibility of Michael Cohen, who was once charged with lying to Congress. Michael Cohen, though, will be here in New York today as a possible rebuttal witness before the grand jury. Gail.
Anyway, so let's hear it. Trump was chirping, too. He said he was expected to be arrested in a New York grand jury probe.
Ricky Kleeman joins us now.
By the way, there's no evidence that he will. Like, that's not... Just want to point something out here. When the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago on that fateful evening a couple months ago that we all forgot about, that was a big deal. But you know who made it a big deal? Donald Trump did. Okay? The FBI asked time and time again to be like, hey, can you please cooperate with us? We know you have additional classified documents. I don't even know why you're trying to keep them. Is it possible to take them back? They said over and over again, please, can we get this shit back? Okay, and Donald Trump was like, yeah, you got it. I gave it to you. I gave you everything. But he didn't give him everything. And he kept them for some fucking reason. And we still don't know why he tried to keep them, right? And the FBI was like, okay, well, we got to go in and seize these documents now, right? Remember, that same shit happened to Mike Pence recently. Same shit happened to Joe Brandon recently. And it didn't make the waves. Why? Is it because those guys are loved by the media? Well, maybe a little bit. Liberal media does love both of these guys and hails them as heroes. But the main reason is because they fucking cooperated with the DOJ. That's it. They cooperated. They cooperated with the Department of Justice. And they were like, yeah, please take all the documents. Sorry, didn't know that was the case. Donald Trump, on the other hand, turned it into a content opportunity to be like, they're coming after me once again, folks. They're coming after me once again. And that's it. So he's doing the same thing in a way here.
At the table, Ricky, I see people on both sides of the aisle rolling their eyes about this. Most people believe he had the...
He said, anybody else here like Trump? Brother, you are in the most pro-Trump community you ever could find, okay? We don't like Trump. We love Trump around these parts, okay? All of us.
Fair. Most people believe the money has been paid. Michael Cohen has certainly talked about it repeatedly. So how strong is the case and why is it coming about now?
Well, we have to remember, as the district attorney would tell us, the law is the law, and whoever violates it should be prosecuted.
No matter how long it takes?
No matter how long it takes, as long as it is within the statute of limitations. However, is it unusual in 2023 to look back to a case in 2016 when Michael Cohen, the main person who is the witness in this case, pled guilty in 2018? And keep in mind, the Southern District of New York, the federal government, passed on going forward against Donald Trump when he left the presidency. The Federal Election Commission passed. So now we have a new sovereign in the state who says, it doesn't matter. I have the right to enforce the law in New York County. And here I see not only falsification of business records, which are misdemeanors.
For the record, I think like there's an infinitely more valid RICO that Fani Willis has against Donald Trump in the state of Georgia over the phone call, the perfect phone call that he had. I think that's a significantly more valid reason to fucking arrest him. Maybe she should worry more about that instead of fucking arresting everyone that's ever rapped under, YSL's label, right? That's just me. I don't know. But there's two different RICO cases right now. One is it's pronounced Fawny. Okay, whatever. I don't care. I don't like her. Okay. Yeah, free sex, free thug, all that good shit. Regardless. My point is she also has a RICO case against Donald Trump, and it's a solid one in my opinion. That is actually a infinitely more significant RICO case against Donald Trump than this one, which is like the hush money one, which is like a misdemeanor kind of.
Misdemeanors.
Bro, don't start with that shit. YSL was definitely murdering people. Yeah, like as a treat, they listen, as a treat. As a treat.
But I see a connection to a campaign violation, and that is a felony. And that's where Alvin Bragg is as the DA, and he's going forward with vigor. Now, some people may say, as your skeptical look and many other skeptical looks around...
This is just my resting face.
That's right. That why this one? Well, I think the argument is, wouldn't we have rather seen across the country, if you were going to take the unprecedented step to go and indict a former president, wouldn't we have rather seen it been about January 6th? Wouldn't we have rather seen that it was in Georgia about election interference? But we don't have the luxury of the rather. It turned out that Alvin Bragg became aggressive in 2023 about a case that we thought was long forgotten.
And it may end up being that those other cases come to some sort of a head. But what could happen in this case in the near term for Mr. Trump?
Well, everyone seems to believe, including his lawyers, that he will be indicted. I do not have any thought that he will be, quote unquote, arrested tomorrow. What will happen is someone like Donald...
Stop telling us the truth. I want to hear some fucking libbed up bullshit, dude. Big boy gamer man, thank you for the 5, get the subs. I want to see, I want to see the real good shit. I want him to go, yeah, he's definitely going to jail for sure. Like, that sick freak. He's going to be locked up in a maximum security prison. You know what I mean?
Trump, former president.
Yeah, he's going to outrun the cops. That's what I want. Which, by the way, that is one angle that Trump is going for as well, which they have not mentioned yet. But like one of the things that he tweeted was about how it would be impossible for the police to like arrest him. Basically, he was talking about how, oh my God, wait, let me see if I can find the tweets. Do you guys have any of the tweets ready to go, fired up? Because there was one where he like basically tweeted about. Trump basically tweeted about how like I am the number one cop lover. I am the number one cop lover in America. Okay. And the fact that like the New York Police Department, you know, went out of their way to promote me and to issue me. If you send me the Tim Dillon tweet one more fucking time while I'm literally covering something else, I'm going to put you into orbit. Okay. Put you through a fucking wall. Stop! Fucking freaks, dude. We'll get to that later. Oh, here. Oh, God, what? Mueller, she wrote. This is so libbed up. Anyway, yeah, HASA, not NASA, okay? She crossed it out, the Mueller, she wrote people. Okay, so Trump says, can you imagine the great New York City Police Department, correctly referred to as New York City's finest, who, for the first and only time in history, endorsed the president, me, honored me as Man of the Year, having to defend and protect the defunders, cop haters of the radical left that want to put their greatest champion and friend in prison for a crime that doesn't exist. All the while, the Soros-backed DA allows murderers and other violent criminals to freely roam the sidewalks of New York. Okay? So, yeah, he's saying like basically New York Police Department, like, don't ever fucking, you know, don't arrest me if you have to. Like, imagine the juxtaposition. Like, I'm the greatest cop defender. The New York City Police Department loves me. The NYPD union basically fucking, endorsed me because I'm such a cop lover. Meanwhile, you're gonna take the word of like this anti-cop DA who is pro-crime. It's not going to happen. So it would be pretty funny to see the police union and the leadership of the police union be like, sorry, sir, we have to do this to you while they're crying. God, imagine perp walking Donald Trump with like some of the most thumb-like cops, but like they're doing, because everyone's a liberal now, they have to do like a liberal style protest where they basically like dress up and they're tiered. They have tears in their eyes as they like perp walk Donald Trump, and they're like, we don't want to do this, sir. I'm so sorry, but I have to do it. Well, they would, the New York Hogs wouldn't have that kind of accent. They'd be like, I don't want to fucking do this to you, sir. Mr. President, I'm so fucking sorry. Oh, Mr. President, Mr. President, you don't understand. You're always in my heart. I know you fucking won the election, but I got to do this to you. I'm so sorry, Mr. President. You know, I'm going to go back to my Staten Island home and beat the fuck out of my wife tonight. You don't understand. I'm going to be so mad. I don't want to do this to you. All right, anyway. I'm walking here. When the Punisher becomes the punished? Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Good stuff all around. You understand why this is such a fun, exciting opportunity, right?
A white-collar crime, he will get to self-surrender. And he will get to do that because of the safety concerns here, which are monumental because of his safety, the DA's safety, everyone's safety. But he is protected by Secret Service. And Secret Service is not going to parade him in handcuffs on a public way. He may go to an undisclosed location. He may go to the courthouse. I expect it to happen soon, but not tomorrow.
All right, not tomorrow. We'll keep watching it. I'm sure we'll have you back if and when it does happen. Ricky Kleeman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anyway, so here's Ron the Stinky, okay? Ron the Poopy Pants, Ron the Piss Pants, Ron Meatball Ron, okay? Here he is trying to fucking, communicate in this unique predicament, communicate that he is, still very much a fan of the Trump coalition, but also simultaneously trying to fucking say, whatever. He's trying to do whatever he can here, okay? But, like, it's a really, really shitty situation for him. It's hard. It's hard. How do you differentiate yourself from Donald Trump in your entire career, or like any sort of notoriety that you gained revolves around like you copying Trump's shit, okay? It's not going to happen. Let's hear what he has to do here. All he can do is fucking just like do the finger point. That's all he's got. He's got nothing else.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Megan from the Florida Standard. We wanted to know what your thoughts are on the rumored Trump indictment and if you have any role in it. If charges are brought on him, will you have any role in extradition to New York? Thank you.
I've seen rumors swirl. I have not seen any facts yet, and so I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know this, the Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor. And so he, like other Soros-funded prosecutors, they weaponize their office to impose a political agenda on society at the expense of the rule of law and public safety. He has downgraded over 50% of the felonies to misdemeanors. He says he doesn't want to even have jail time for the vast, vast majority of crimes. And what we've seen in Manhattan is we've seen the crime rate go up, and we've seen...
Like, literally, every single person that's running against Trump is using his lines, okay? Bar for bar. Verbatim. Do you understand? Mike Pence said the exact same shit. This is literally just a carbon copy of what Trump wrote, okay? With just less pizzazz. That's it. And it's not going to happen for you, dog. You're not getting anything if all you can pump out is like Trump's entire fucking flow, copied a harder than Drake stole from XXXTentacion, okay? Just bar for bar, word for word, okay? And he's got better flow than you. It's just not going to happen.
Citizens become less safe. And so you're talking about this situation with, and look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction, and he chooses to go back many, many years ago to try to use...
He just said he's George Soros back. He didn't even like allude. Did I miss it? Did he even allude to the fact that he is like the DA is black, or that he's a thug? He didn't call him a thug. He didn't call him an animal. You know what I mean? Like, see, that's what I'm saying. Trump is just fucking bullhorning it. Okay. Ron DeSantis, on the other hand, is not even going super racist with it. Okay. You're wrong. DeSantis says everything hogs love, but without the deranged rambling. They love that this guy seems more rational so they can spit in liberals' faces. Yeah. If there's one thing about the Republican Party, especially the most active parts of the Republican Party, especially the ones that, engage with the primaries, those guys definitely want someone who's reasonable. Yeah. No, they love that. You're right. You're so right about that, brother. Yeah. they're always saying like, oh man, I wish we had someone more marginal, someone more neutral, not marginal, someone more neutral about issues, someone who can just like, someone who can present themselves in like a guy who went to Yale, like Ron DeSantis. Yeah, dude, you're so right. That's why Mitt Romney won and defeated. Remember when Mitt Romney defeated Barack Obama? And then that's why Donald Trump lost to Jeb Bush in the primaries, and Jeb Bush became the president. Because, you know, rational, reasonable, coherent Republicans. Like, what are you, fucking on crack, dude? Are you crazy? No, man. This is the content presidency, okay? That's it. Yeah, remember? Yeah, Tom Cotton. Bro just vaporized. He got his clout in 2020 and rode out. Yeah, where's Tom Cotton? Where's Josh Hawley? Where is... Oh, wait, another one. Where is Blake Masters? Where's Black Masters? Where's Blake Masters? What happened to that guy? You know, these guys are so incredibly coherent. What happened to them?
Do something about porn star hush money payments. You know, that's an example of pursuing a political agenda and weaponizing the office. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. I also think it's important to point out when you're talking about these Soros-funded prosecutors, yes, they may do a high-profile politicized prosecution, and that's bad, but the real victims are ordinary New Yorkers.
On the one hand, you say Trump went too far with the racism sentiment and lost a lot of normie voters. But on the other hand, you say DeSantis can't win because he isn't Trump. Which one is it? I just wanted some clarification. Welcome to the most significant party, the most significant problem facing the Republican Party's future prospects in the United States of America. You have arrived at the heart of the conundrum. That is literally the problem. You have an incredibly active primary voter base that is looking for unhinged sickos, okay? So you have to capitulate to that base to win and you know, fight your way out of a primary, especially if there's some solid fucking contenders there. But those primary voters are not enough to win general elections, especially not in the national scale. Okay? They might win in Florida, where like, you know, every expat or like every fucking, you know, third generation or second generation Cuban voter is like literally saying like, we want more fascism. Okay? Please. But that is not going to help you in the national scale. It doesn't scale out. And that is precisely the problem that Republicans are trying to fucking deal with. Expats are immigrants. Yeah, I know, but it's the same word. Doesn't matter. Anyway. They are, unfortunately, victim to their own success because their success basically relies on being increasingly more brutal with no immediate material restitution. So if you push the culture war button too fucking hard, you might get a lot of benefits out of it like Donald Trump did. Okay, you might galvanize the base. You might get like psychotic supporters. But that level of polarization is going to, you know, scare off the moderate Republican voters who are just like, I just want a tax cut, dog. Shut the fuck up with this shit. Right? I just want you to kill homeless people. You know what I mean? Like, what is this other stuff? Like, I don't give a fuck about like baby vaginas and penises. Okay? Stop telling me about children's genitalia all the fucking time. Right? Don't throw Haas. That's like literally the fucking Matt Walsh Republican Party extremely online rhetoric is all children's genitalia. That's all they fucking talk about. And they're unhinged. That's what they do. And it's gross as fuck to constantly talk about it. We know, but can you stop bringing it up? Fuck. No, I can't. Not when I'm literally talking about the one instance where this is all some of these unhinged, you know, neck-bearded, mouth-breathing fucking weirdos can talk about. So anyway, yeah, they're scaring the hoes. So the problem is much larger than like Ron DeSantis in general. Ron DeSantis is just the perfect way to capture Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, and the ongoing battle internally within the Republican Party is a battle that is much larger, is what I mean. It is a battle that has been going on for longer than you would think as well. Like it's not Donald Trump that caused this to happen. It's not a rift that Donald Trump caused. It's one that basically the Republican Party built into their electoral strategy. You know what I mean? That's it.
Ordinary.
So is this a bad thing? Let them fight? Oh no, I love it. I love watching the infighting. Are you kidding me? I fucking love watching this. It would become a really bad thing if it could become a really bad thing if they were able to like basically convert the suburban housewives into that like schizophrenic style of politics. I said this like originally. Like it's all entirely dependent on like how much brainwashing can Fox News engage in to get like the white suburban moms who are like married to the fucking car dealership owners and married to the HVAC business owner guys to believe that like, they want to trans all your children or whatever. If they can actually get enough of those people on board, like this country is fucking, it's already accelerated off the hill, but like, I guess it'll be even faster. The acceleration towards fascism will, get even faster, but that's it. DeSantis is literally the kid named Finger. I don't even know what this Turk is saying right here. But yeah, that's the situation. That's the predicament. What am I saying? Predicament. I can't even talk today. I'm having a hard time with my words. I apologize.
Americans in all these different jurisdictions, that they get victimized every day because of the reckless political agenda that these Soros DAs bring to their job. They ignore crime and they empower criminals, and that hurts people. Hurts a lot of people.
But he's got no riz. He's got no charisma.
Every single day. These Soros district attorneys are a menace to society, and I'm just glad that I'm the only governor in the country that's actually removed one from office during my tenure.
Yeah. Oh man, the Soros governors, dude. That's the biggest threat to society. The Soros DAs. That's the biggest. Soros DA basically is just a way to say like we got some woke DAs that are causing problems all around. Meanwhile, the real problem is the top of the hour ad break. Okay. Let's talk about the real issues for a second. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. Okay. And no, George Soros will not help you unless he is gifting subscribers in the chat, right? And some people may be backed by George Soros, or some people may be backed not by George Soros, but on their own, will gift you, okay? You might be lucky and get gifted a sub, and that's one way that you can avoid the top of the hour ad break. But if you can't get lucky, then you got to make your own luck by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Okay. It is funny to say that like George Soros is responsible for a crime wave. I mean, it's basically Sussy Joao do Brazil. Thank you for the 5 gift subs. The man from the ether. Thank you for the 5 gift subs. And Big Boy Gamer Man. Thank you for the 5 gift subs. Allowing 15 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. These are all George Soros's workers in the chat gifting you subs. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. I just want to explain something. Yes, I'm confused. Isn't Soros-backed institutions and Nazi conspiracy theories? Why are they so open about it? Because they can get away with it. Because it's like it's like Jordan Peterson saying cultural Marxism in the Frankfurt School without literally saying cultural Bolshevism, right? You flip one word enough, most people are completely unfamiliar with Nazi rhetoric and fascist propaganda of that sort. So that's how they get away with it. They just say a Jewish dude is literally fucking eroding the American safety, the safety of white Americans. hiring DAs to not prosecute black people, to let them go roam the streets freely and do violent things. That's basically what they're saying. That is precisely what they're saying, as a matter of fact. And Nazis said the exact same shit. It's just that if you hyper-focus on that, they will just like constantly do a Ship of Theseus style argument where they're like, oh, I didn't literally mean, oh, wow, well, George Soros is a billionaire. And he is funding a bunch of projects. Like, wow, that's a big problem. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's just, you will never win that. So I don't even like argue about it. It doesn't even fucking matter ultimately. Yes, no matter what happens, it basically is the same argument that Nazis used to make about how like Jews are destroying the moral fabric of Western civilization. And then also on top of that, they'll say, what do you mean? We love AIPAC. We love Israel. How dare you say we're anti-Semitic? Fuck you. How dare you say we're anti-Semitic? Fuck you. We love the far-right theocratic ethno-state of Israel. Quick quitter. They give it the 5, get the subs as well. So, good luck. It won't stick.
And in terms of we are not involved in this, won't be involved in this. I have no interest in getting involved in some type of manufactured circus by some Soros DA, okay? He's trying to do a political spectacle. He's trying to virtue signal for his base. I've got real issues I got to deal with here in the state of Florida. We're obviously shutting down CBDC, which is important. We've got so many things pending in front of the legislature. I've got to spend my time on issues that actually matter to people. I can't spend my time worrying about things of that nature. So we're not going to be in.
Yeah, he's too busy banning fucking books that like even mention the concept of like two dads. You know what I mean? Guys, he's got real issues. You know what I mean? Like wokeness to combat. Okay.
Involved in it in any way. I'm fighting for Floridians and I'm fighting back against Biden. That's what I do every single day.
Just moments ago.
Yeah. Oh, Putin went to Mariupol. We're going to talk about that as well. But before we get to that, like I said, are you enjoying the show? Refill your popcorn. You will love this next part. I love these fucking dumbass Trump posts. This post was fact-checked by the real American patriots. DeSantis goes so light on Trump. Meanwhile, Trump on DeSantis. Trump deleted a Truth Social post attacking Ron DeSantis for partying with students when he was a teacher, which temporarily made everyone think, wow, did he think he went too far? He then reposted it, but added that the girls were underage. He even threw a photo in this time. Ron will probably find out about this sometime in the future when he's unfairly and illegally attacked by a woman or possibly a man with false accusations. He said, you're gay. He called him a gay pedophile? Dude, that's awesome. No way. Yeah. He's going crazy with it, dude. Projection? Nah, Trump is not gay. Trump is asexual 100%. I will ride or die for that. I genuinely think Trump is disgusted by like sex. I think he is like, he's not even ace. He just like literally thinks it's the most disgusting thing you can do. Ron DeSanctimonious will probably find out about false accusations and fake stories sometime in the future as he gets older, wiser, and even better known when he's unfairly and illegally attacked by a woman, even a classmate that are underage, or possibly a man. I'm sure he will want to fight these misfits just like I do. He's like, I mean, this is fire. Like, undeniable. Kyle Driver, thank you for the 5, get the subs. It's undeniable that this is crazy. He's doing it. He's bouldering. Now, what was Trump's response to that? New Florida Governor Ron DeSantis mocks Trump in his first response to the likely indictment. Look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. Yeah. Trump's response to Ron is calling him a gay pedophile while simultaneously making it seem like he's, on his side. Okay. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis is like, oh, yeah, don't come after Trump, but also simultaneously don't know how to deal with hush money for porn stars. Oh, my God, this is awesome. Real America's Voice, Charlie Kirk. Let's hear. Whenever I have an issue, whenever I watch something that's going on in the news, I'm like, what does Charlie Kirk and Alan Dershowitz have to say about this particular matter? Okay? They're the goats. They are the reasonable minds. I cannot wait to hear what they have to say about Trump being arrested potentially.
You talk about how this is bigger than Trump, about if you're able to do this to political opponents and dissidents, it sets bad precedent, it allows prosecutors to go above and beyond, and it actually makes us less free.
Without a doubt. There was a South American dictator who said, for my friends, everything, for my enemies, the law. You can use the law to get anybody, as Justice Jackson said, or as the KGB had said, show me the man and I'll find you the crime. This is the worst example in my 60 years of practicing criminal law, of targeting somebody for prosecution and then rummaging through the books, giving people immunity and trying to concoct a crime that doesn't exist. And if this is allowed to succeed, none of our liberties is safe. Today it's a Republican who's a target. Tomorrow it's a Democrat. And the day after tomorrow, it's your Uncle Charlie or your nephew or your niece. There'd be no limits on what prosecutors can do to their political enemies. And they're going to do it to people who are running against them for DA next. And it's just such a violation. And not only a violation of American law and civil liberties, it's actually a violation of the Bible. The Bible instructs judges two things. Don't take bribes. That's obvious. But the number one thing is don't recognize faces. And don't.
That's exactly right. Yes. Do not favor anyone in a court. Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. Continue. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's why it violates every core of American value. That's why this is one of the worst prosecutions I have ever seen. Believe me, I've seen some bad prosecutions, some good ones. I've seen guilty people acquitted and innocent people convicted, but I've never quite seen a prosecution like this. We had to staple together two unrelated statutes, one federal, one state, violate the statute of limitations, violate the rule of law, and concoct a crime.
Aw, no repeat on that. That's a bummer. Anyway, I love hearing from like the number one defender of pedophiles. Like, just anytime I'm thinking like, there's an ongoing issue, okay? I'm like, who to ask? Oh, the number one defender of pedophiles. It's so wild that Fox News simultaneously tries to cater to the QAnon fan base, okay? And then they also turn around and like have Alan Dershowitz on. Like Tucker Carlson has Alan Dershowitz on all the fucking time. Alan Dershowitz defended successfully Jeffrey motherfucking Epstein. He also even wrote articles about how there is a constitutional way to lower the age of consent. Like, that's crazy. He was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein all the fucking time. And yet, like, every conservative is like, save the children, save the children. If you're gay in the vicinity of a child, if you're gay and you adopted a child, you're a pedophile. Literally, like, that's the fucking guy. Like, that's the guy you have on every fucking week, dude. Come on, man. There's barriers being placed right now. A quick update. Pro-Trump influencers are trying to organize anti-indictment rallies tonight. One in New York City and one at Mar-a-Lago, mostly on Telegram. Trump fans are mostly telling each other not to go, saying it's a Fed trap. This mirrors most pro-Trump protest failures since January 6th. Part of the problem is that the potential pro-Trump New York City protests at a therefore non-public secret location, making it all seem sketchier to people who might want to go. You have to sign up to an email list to find it, and it's supposed to start in less than 4 hours. The other issue is that like they are scared. The January 6th like indictments actually made them scared of legal scrutiny because it was like a wake up call for them. You know what I mean? Like it literally was a wake up call for them. They were like, "What? Like I could actually face legal scrutiny if I film myself breaking into fucking the Senate?" You know what I mean? That was like a big moment for them. A big moment, like a wake up call for them. I just fuck, man. I love this. I love this so much. Overall, great stuff. Just wonderful stuff. From what I understand, one of the protests, the one in Mar-a-Lago specifically, they want to build a barrier around, like a human shield around Mar-a-Lago to stop, like cops from forcibly entering Mar-a-Lago and like forcibly arresting Donald Trump. Like, it is so moronic that they think that, like, it's already stupid that they think that, like, you know, they're going to forcibly take in Donald Trump, a former president. Okay. But it's additionally stupid that, like, let's say there's actually an altercation like that they could form a human wall to stop cops from entering Mar-a-Lago. God, I really, 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 I just hope all of this happens so bad. It's just like, it's incredible. They just made it legal to mow down protesters in Florida. Yeah, brother, not fucking like anti-Cuban protesters, as we saw, and not not like you know, right-wing protesters. I mean left-wing protesters. That's who you can kill legally with a car. Anyway, here's the role that the Secret Service might play in the possible Trump arrest, as an ex-agent explains.
Lawyer Richard Painter and CNN law enforcement analyst and former Secret Service agent Jonathan Wackrow. Richard, I just want to start with you, counselor, here, because Paula was talking about this. What we're seeing, or not seeing, but know about at the grand jury today, feels unusual because a grand jury investigation, by definition, is run by the prosecutors. The defense lawyer is not even in the room. So how will the questioning of Robert Costello even go today?
Well, we don't know what's going to happen and what he's going to say to the grand jury. This investigation has been going on for years. I submitted a amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court to allow the subpoenas to go forward from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And we don't know what's going to happen with the grand jury, but we should keep in mind that Michael Cohen was charged and convicted.
Someone said AI guy.
In connection with the payoffs of Stormy Daniels on behalf of individual number one. Well, that means that it's highly unusual for individual number one not also to be indicted. So I'd expect that to...
Guys, stop making fun of Dick Painter, okay? He's a former White House ethics lawyer. Yeah, I'm surprised you guys are seeing him for the first time. He was like, didn't he make waves originally? Like when everyone was like libbing out about Donald Trump, he was like the original ethics guy who would like constantly be up Trump's ass.
To happen sometime soon. How it will play out, I'm not sure.
And stick with me for one more, Richard. As we look at all of this, and everybody's trying to read the tea leaves here, right? Trying to figure out what's going to happen. Part of that is because of what the former president put out over the weekend, saying that this was going to happen. As Paula said, his own attorneys refuting that. But the fact that this narrative is now out there, what does that do? How does that weigh on prosecutors at this point? How does that inform any decisions, if at all, knowing what could be coming in terms of a reaction?
Well, Donald Trump is going to try to play this to rev up his base and cause unrest, but the prosecutors should continue to do their job. That's what prosecutors are there for. The problem is that the much more serious charges are in the hands of the Department of Justice. The charges for sedition and insurrection in connection with the events after the 2020 election. And unfortunately, we have a situation where the district attorneys, both in New York and in Fulton County, Georgia, are far ahead of the Department of Justice, or at least appear to be far ahead of the Department of Justice in their investigations and handling grand juries and moving toward indictments. Without DOJ having taken action on the most serious charges. The sedition and insurrection charges would disqualify Donald Trump from public office under the 14th Amendment, Section 3. Those really should be the first charges to be brought. They should have been brought a long time ago. It's been over 2 years since the insurrection of January 6th. And unfortunately, without air support from the Department of Justice, the district attorneys are going to be subjected to very vicious attacks from Donald Trump and his supporters, which I believe could feed into more civil unrest. It's a very, very precarious situation right now.
Jonathan, I want to bring you into this discussion because talk about unprecedented here. The possibility, and again, we don't know if it's going to happen, but the possibility of a former president being arrested raises all kinds of security concerns and processes that we've just never seen before. Yes, Trump called for protests over the weekend. There's that, and I'm sure there's security concerns there. Yeah. What should we be looking for, and how will this even work? Which different agencies from the state, from the city, from the federal government might be involved with this?
John, great question. And listen, there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't have line of sight of exactly what the prosecutors are doing right now, but we do have line of sight of what law enforcement is doing. And what they're doing is, with the backdrop of actions from January 6th, they're being hyper coordinated around their efforts. And those efforts are across multiple law enforcement entities, both at the state, local, and federal level. But what's really interesting, John, is that the roles and responsibilities around all of the different law enforcement entities that are involved are different. They have a different remit on how they're addressing this issue. And let me just quickly walk you through what we're looking at. The NYPD, right? They are in charge of maintaining civil order. So what they're going to do is they're going to be focused on the area around the courthouse, but also New York City at large, right? There are multiple areas where protests could spark at a moment's notice. And remember, NYPD has a dual role here. Protesters are individuals who are exercising their First Amendment rights, and they need to be protected in the execution of those rights. But NYPD is also keenly aware of, any type of violent activity that
they are going to be doing themselves because of how upset they are that Donald Trump is getting arrested, is what you should say if you are being honest. Because in the state of New York in general, the NYPD as an institution is like Donald Trump's most loyal soldiers, right? I mean, these guys are the number one hogs that love inside of New York City. If you want to find Trump supporters, the NYPD is the best place to go. Okay? Straight up. That's the best place to find the most amount of Trump support.
Stem from these protests. So they have a dual remit there on maintaining that civil order and protecting protesters. New York State court officers, they're the ones that are going to be protecting the courthouse, the physical building itself, again, from any type of activity. The FBI, they're involved. Why? Because they're monitoring for any types of violations of federal law by any of these protesters. They're looking for acts of potential domestic violence by extremists. So they're involved. Now you have the Secret Service, and the Secret Service playing an interesting role. Usually we see the Secret Service as a coordinating entity. They're the ones that usually come up with these security plans for rallies and speeches and any type of political event surrounding either a sitting or former president. But in this case, they're not. They are in a protective mode. They are viewing this as really an administrative movement where they have to protect Donald Trump from point A to point B, let him do his business before the court and leave. They are not playing that active role that we typically see them in. They're not providing the magnetometers at the courthouse. They're not providing the perimeter security that we typically see. Now, are they working with law enforcement partners? The answer is yes. They're going to be informed, but they are not the controlling entity, which is something rare that we typically don't see the Secret Service engage with.
Jonathan, real quickly, how much, if at all, have the events of January 6th, what we saw unfold there, influenced the preparations that are likely underway at this point?
Listen, they're heavily weighted, right? And I think that you've seen from January 6th across a whole variety of different types of events, both in New York, Washington, D.C., but across the nation. Law enforcement is heavily reliant upon information sharing, intelligence, and preparedness. They have to be. They have to plan for every type of event.
You know what I'm waiting for? Another really funny thing that I think will be awesome. Is like the MAGA communists and shit I can't wait for those fucking weirdos to be like, Trump is just like Eugene Debs. Like being arrested for being proletarian, okay? I mean, that is if they know who Eugene Debs is. Like, I'm sure I'm giving half of those fucking weird losers like the opportunity to now cook up their own psychotic tweets, but like, good luck. You guys can make an argument similar to how like Trump is going to be running from prison just like Eugene Debs did, and maybe even Nelson Mandela if you want to get like real fucking vile with it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for like Glenn Greenwald to like subtly make these weird. I mean, not that Glenn Greenwald is a MAGA communist, obviously not, but like I totally think that it'd be a really funny moment to be like, yeah, Trump is running from prison just like Eugene Debs did because he's the real working class hero.
Actuality, especially in a city like New York, where there are multiple locations where incidents could occur, sparked by and fueled by social media posts from a whole variety of entities. So law enforcement has to be prepared. They have to be coordinated. They have to have those contingency plans in place. Hopefully, they never have to use it. Hopefully, the calls for peaceful protests are adhered to, and all of that preparation is really going to be unnecessary. But should it be necessary, the NYPD, federal law enforcement entities, they are prepared to react.
Jonathan Wackrow, Richard Painter, really appreciate both joining us this morning. Thank you.
Help me understand what's going on today, because I don't think I've seen something quite like this before, where you have a grand jury investigation and the person being investigated is a...
Dude, all of our heroes are going to jail. This is so fucked up. The Matrix is coming after Trump now. Who won't the Matrix go after? First Andrew Tate, now Donald Trump. It's like unacceptable, dude. The fucking Matrix. All of our top G's. It's literally like the Matrix is coming after everyone that Aiden Ross has tweeted about. It's fucked up. Aiden, save yourself.
Allowed to basically ask for a witness at the end here. How is this going to work? Who's going to ask Costello questions? What's going to happen?
John, thanks for having me back. What's going to happen today is the exercise of Donald Trump's rights. They're very broad under New York law, unusually so. That's why Donald Trump himself was invited to the grand jury, but instead he's sending in a proxy in the form of attorney Robert Costello. Now, remember, Mr. Costello represented Michael Cohen, and he was criticized in the report of special counsel Robert Mueller for what, to me, tiptoed up to the line of witness tampering. At one point telling Michael Cohen he has powerful friends, obviously referring to the president, and he should sleep well tonight before he cooperated. Trump and Trump World turned on Cohen, of course, when he did cooperate. Costello's lawyer relationship ended with Cohen. Now Costello is going to come in and share information from that attorney-client relationship, apparently saying that Cohen was telling a different story before he cooperated. But John, we know that already. Cohen has admitted to that. So they'll bring in Cohen, possibly, if Costello needs to be rebutted, to say, yes, I wasn't candid before I've cooperated. I've been candid since. I've analyzed Cohen's statements since he began cooperating, and they have been rock solid. He's told the same account about the president's hush money to influence the 2016 election.
Michael Avenatti, you forgot about him? Yeah, I mean, for good reason, I hope. Oh, my God. Isn't Michael Cohen a friend of the show? Didn't you go on Cohen's podcast? I did. I sure did. That is true. I went on Michael Cohen's podcast back in the day. He's technically a friend of the show. Avenatti 2024, yeah, he's going to run from prison, too. Remember when Libs wanted Avenatti to run for office? Yeah, I do. It was fucking gross and awful, and I hated every moment of it. And I routinely criticize liberals for that, even the Libs in my chat, too. God, so many fucking memes, dude. So many incredible memes. Ay. Okay. So what else am I missing here? Is there any angle I haven't covered? I mean, I guess we haven't really talked about how the Republicans have been chirping about this as much. We kind of covered it from a liberal, the liberal perspective, but I do want to hear from the Republican perspective on this issue. Tomorrow's like Christmas for you. I mean, that's what libs are saying too. Liberals are basically saying that, it's Christmas arrest, right? Anyway, McCarthy saying to the followers not to protest. We talked about the Patriot moat, trying to create a moat around our president, our glorious president. Marjorie Taylor Greene, along with Kevin McCarthy, is saying we do not protest we don't need to protest about the communist Democrats' plan to arrest President Trump and the political weaponization of our government election interference. These idiots are sealing their own faith. Dude, this is such pussy shit. Who has made her ambitions is slowly more of an institution into power. Fake friends, dude. Got that McCarthy has completely abandoned our boy Trump. Yeah. She's slowly but surely becoming more of an institutionalist, betraying her base that rose her into power. That put her. What should I? No, not rose. Put her into power. That raised her into power. Rose her to power. That lifted her into power. No, we did it. 50-word essay do, yeah. It is pretty funny, though. Like, this literally is like a liberal-ass tweet. What do you mean we don't need to protest about the communist Democrats' plan to arrest President Trump and political weaponization and our government and election interference? What can you protest on if you don't want to protest on this? Like, that's so crazy. Like, this is some, compared to Liz Cheney, exactly. This is some Liz Cheney-ass shit, dude. It's like, it's the same attitude that makes no sense when you think about it, like with respect to QAnon, right? Where it's like the Democrats are running like a child sex trafficking ring, but you shouldn't do anything about it. Like, what do you mean? Oh, what can we do about all of these like glaring, obvious disparities and income inequality and all this shit, and then like also on top of that, the Democrats like eating babies and stuff. Oh, just don't do anything about it. Just vote. Liberals lose every time because they say that, right? You can't run on doing more stochastic terrorism and then literally get to a position of power and be like, yeah, I don't want to do stochastic terrorism anymore. Damn, Chris Hayes liked my tweet. Friend of the show. What is sarcastic terrorism? Sarcastic terrorism is something different. I think you mean stochastic terrorism. My man said sarcastic terrorism. There is some good news, though. Oh, there's one here. This is what they're planning. The pro-Trump rally planned for tomorrow in Southern California is at the parking lot of an In-N-Out Burger. No, really. Wait, Chris Hayes, go on and show, please. Yeah, maybe. Let's move on to some good news. Victory for the workers. RMT members at Network Rail vote to accept up to 14.4% pay offer, including 75% off leisure travel. Breaking fucking news. Mick Lynch, he did it. The mad lad. Absolute fucking ledge, yeah? That's right. Victory for the fucking workers. And victory for the fucking bolding, assigned corporate birth lookalikes like Mick fucking Lynch, innit? He's shown the world that you can look a fucking way and be an absolute proletarian legend. You understand? A fucking ledge. Man, hey, I'm usually listening to you at my warehouse job, but I'm home due to injury. When I return from my PT, my John Brown sweatpants were at the door. Recovery time engaged. I'm thrilled with the quality and fit. Thanks for being you. Love you, Haas. Hey, recover soon, my friend. Fucking hell, man. Fucking hell. Mick Lynch, he did it. Fucking ledge. All right, moving on. Let's get to another important story that we are going to be talking about today. And that important story for this afternoon is about the Top G. Top G, I mean, of course. Okay? Before we get to the President Xi arriving in Russia for the Putin meeting, though, we're going to be talking about Vladimir Pootie Poo, who is a bad guy and a war criminal according to the ICC, who we do not support and we do not defend. We do, however, offer critical support to Top G. But before we get to that, Vladimir Putin went to Mariupol, which was a surprise visit, and it was kind of wild too. Like, he's just, you know, I mean, it's like a George Bush going to Iraq style situation. You know what I mean? Let's take a look.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping arrived in Moscow for a 3-day state visit. This is his first visit to Russia since Russia invaded Ukraine. And later this morning, he will hold a one-on-one meeting with Vladimir Putin. This as Western leaders grow very wary of the two nations' deepening cooperation. Ivan Watson joins us live from Kharkiv, Ukraine. Ivan, thank you very much for being with us. This is such a significant meeting, and it comes just on the heels of President Putin going to Mariupol right after he visited Crimea and Rostov-on. There is so much at stake here, and the West obviously very concerned, even though China is billing this as a mission of peace.
Right, and the Ukrainians watching this very nervously. And that's because Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, they keep talking about their friendship with no limits, this incredible, basically, alliance between Russia and China. Xi Jinping sent a letter to Russian state media before this trip. He says this is the 10th time he's visiting Russia since he became president.
I did. I called you your lib gaming. You are a libtard. Also, answer my fucking Instagram DMs. Okay? Goddamn.
40th meeting with Vladimir Putin. He had some digs in his letter, thinly veiled, at the U.S., complaining about hegemony and calling for a more democratic, multipolar world. What he did not mention at all was Russia's invasion of Ukraine a year ago and the ongoing war. Instead, Xi Jinping referred to this as the Ukraine crisis and claimed that Beijing is neutral in this, that he wants peace negotiations and dialogue. He has yet to speak directly with the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, since Russia's invasion a year ago. And when it comes to the International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant on Friday against...
Yeah, Xi Jinping is going there to arrest Vladimir Putin personally. I think that's what he's going to do.
Vladimir Putin for alleged war crimes. Well, the Chinese Foreign Ministry has weighed in on that. It is calling for the ICC to be objective and impartial, to respect the jurisdictional immunity enjoyed by a head of state, and to avoid politicization and double standards. So take that into context when you discuss China's claimed neutrality in this war.
And China has at no point throughout this war condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine. They remain a huge buyer of Russian oil, helping finance all of this. And one of the things that the West, and John Kirby here...
if Putin and Donald Trump got arrested on the same day, I think that would be like the ultimate nut for liberals, okay? Like, liberals would chase that high for the rest of their fucking lives, and they would never be able to achieve that. It's like Charlie making fun of Sneeko, who has a humiliation fetish, right? Like, it's like Moist Critical humiliating Sneeko in front of like millions, tens of millions of people. Like, he is never going to get that nut ever again, okay? He's never going to get that nut ever again. If that were to happen, liberals would die, I think. Like, they would literally die coming. They would come so fucking hard that they'd be like, I have no more bodily fluids inside of me, and it's over. Like, I'm dead now. The unattainable nut. China is kidnapping Uyghur teenage girls and forcing them to live in Han Chinese family. That's like that. This is the guy who would also come, I assume. So liberals would ascend to another plane of reality. So as far as this goes, I wonder what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know what the fucking Xi Jinping plans for Russia are. They put out like the most boilerplate, you know, we got to do some ceasefire peace negotiations type shit. I don't know if they benefit tremendously from ongoing conflict in Ukraine. I do know that they like playing the role of America now, as they did with the Saudi Arabia, Iran, normalizing relationships between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So, you know, they are relying on Russian oil, which they're mentioning here clearly, and gas. But ultimately, I don't know. I mean, it's not like America has a dog in the fight to continue the war. One, because like it the good enemy to like, you know, unite the Western world against. Classic Cold War shit that you can, you know, drum on. It justifies America's NATO expansion all around the world. 100% it justifies it, as it is expanding even further. And more importantly than all of that, there's a material benefit to the United States of America. That material benefit being basically a steady flow of weapons. A steady flow of weapons that you can sell and you can send into Ukraine. That continues the cycle for our military industrial complex. I mean, it's great, right? It's awesome for them. On the other hand, when I think about China, I think like they want to have a very they want to have like a we are the new hegemonic power kind of attitude, which is understandable because they kind of are, right? But they don't have as robust of a weapons industry as the United States does. So I don't really know. I mean, I guess I know why they are aligning with I know what the BRICS interest is here, right? Which is that it's a multipolar world, and what better way to like stage the what better way to show the rest of the world that like they are a major player in the global arena. So I don't know. I don't know if it's like it's anything more than showing the world that they're a power player and trying to come across like the reasonable party in the room instead of the United States of America that's like consistently looking like a rabid dog. You know what I mean? Because as far as like domestic interest goes for European nations, when I think about it, like obviously an end to like any kind of posturing, any kind of any kind of conflict in Ukraine is beneficial for them because they want energy, they want cheaper energy. The United States can only offer so much energy. They don't trust the United States in general, I don't think, and it's making it look it's hurting their domestic chances internally. When you have right-wing forces and even some left-wing forces that are constantly and consistently complaining about the war in Ukraine, saying you're turning into America, you're quite literally fucking, you're more focused on Ukraine when people are cold and people can't pay for their energy bills, right? So that's like that's an issue for them. So they're interested in trying to find an end to that conflict, and I know America is benefiting from a never-ending conflict. So maybe China wants to come across like the reasonable global power in the room. China is dependent on food and energy imports. If the U.S. cut off the flow of international trade, it could put China in a serious strategic bind. The Chinese government has been clear that their goal is to make themselves immune to the U.S. naval blockade. Russia is a major energy and food exporter with a major land border. It's strategic calculus. No, I understand why they are aligned with Russia. I'm just saying, what could there be? Like, what kind of additional interest could they have? I'm trying to figure out if they are like literally trying to sell arms to Russia beyond their geopolitical interests. That's what I'm trying to figure out, because it can't just be pandering. Even though a lot of Chinese partners and a lot of countries that China has a direct interest in, politically especially, are reliant on supplies from Ukraine as well. So that probably plays another role in the secondary impact of the war continuing in Ukraine. Faustini, the oldest non-banned libtake chatter here. China being the role of America in the Middle East is good. They can enjoy that. And Russia will eventually be a client state of China, but they have no interest in a renewed, strengthened Russia. I don't think that they care about strengthened Russia one way or the other. Yeah, they're finalizing a huge deal about gas. So Dutz, man, Russia will take Australia's place as the top source of gas to China. No, they definitely have an energy partnership, 100%. But who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it's a lot of trying to establish a precedent for invasion in this day and age of developed nations. Yeah, but it's a horrible precedent. Like, it's not, no one is going to look to like what Russia is doing, think that it's like valid and just, and then go, oh man, now China is invading Taiwan and that's also moral and just. Like, no, it's like, if anything, I think Xi Jinping and the Chinese form of governance, at least looking at like their international affairs, has shown that they're not interested in flexing military power so far. If there is a lesson to be learned from what Putin did in Russia, or what Putin did in Ukraine, it's like pretty obvious that if they were to forcibly try to enter Taiwan in any way, when the overwhelming majority of Taiwanese people are also like not interested in changing anything about the dynamic. A lot of them want independence, but a lot of them are just like, don't rock the boat, don't rock the boat, don't rock the boat, regardless of what fucking America says here in Western news. That would only galvanize the rest of the world against China. They're seeing what's happening to Russia currently, and why the fuck would they want that for themselves when they already have like a decent back and forth with respect to like the way that trade continues? And it's not like the United States of America, regardless of what their posture is, or regardless of what Joe Brandon says every time he has a fucking brain fart, still is absolutely on board with a one China policy. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what they say on television. They might turn around and be like, oh yeah, Taiwan's independence will be defended down to the, every last person. But ultimately they are officially very much on board and continuing the one nation, two states, one China policy. But who knows? I am openly admitting that I don't know. I'm just looking at what they have done. I'm looking at what they've done so far with respect to other countries and what their interests may be.
In the U.S., and the White House has been warning against is if China were to come out after this visit, Ivan, and say, well, there should be a peace deal right now, that would not be palatable by Ukraine and the West, given that Russia has taken more territory than when this all began.
Sure, and has declared that it is annexing Ukrainian territory seized since the invasion of last year. And to underscore that, you had Vladimir.
Like, I'll keep it $150, dude. Russia is supposed to have more experience with land wars, ground invasions, which, objectively they do, both historically and also in contemporary developments. Okay? China doesn't have a single version of that. Like, they have none of that. So if I'm Chinese and I'm looking at fucking Russia getting their dicks pulled out, okay, and plastered on the fucking timeline, I'm not making any fucking aggressive military action. Because look at that. Look at what's going on. Okay, Vietnam, sure, but it's not exactly a long history of wonderful, positive, reinforcing affairs. You also said Putin wouldn't invade. Maybe sometimes people don't make rational decisions. I would not say that Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin behave in the same way at all. If anything, Xi Jinping has been infinitely more rational than Vladimir Putin historically. I mean, people will be like, oh, he's not smart. And by the way, none of this pertains to like his actions domestically. I'm simply talking about international affairs. So, but who knows? Like I said, it could happen. I'm not making any predictions. Okay, I promise you, I'm not making predictions at all. The only prediction I'll make is the top of the hour ad break will come. Okay, right now. And the second prediction to that is that you will avoid the top of the hour ad break if you are subscribed for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, you get one free Prime subscription a month. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Okay, I'm predicting that some of you might get lucky and get gifted a sub. But other than that, you know, make your own luck. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Matt NLT, thank you for the 5 get the subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Cracking Mick Westside, thank you for the 5 gifted subs as well. All right, let's continue.
Putin on Saturday, fresh from this ICC arrest warrant, visiting the Russian-occupied Ukrainian city of Mariupol. The Kremlin says he landed by helicopter. He drove himself into the outskirts of that shattered city and visited an apartment building that the Russian government just built. While he's meeting with some of the residents there, Poppy, you hear a voice off camera that our linguists say somebody was yelling, "This is all a show, it's not true." This time last year, the Russian military had encircled that city and was bombing it from land, sea, and air, destroying much of it. And I was interviewing residents who were fleeing, who described spending weeks under bombardment, terrified, hiding in basements, burying neighbors who got killed by Russian artillery in the front yards of their apartment buildings. And I spoke to one of the women I met a year ago who escaped. She's a refugee overseas. She said seeing Vladimir Putin in her hometown is like seeing a serial killer return to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, of course it is, and that really says it all. Ivan Watson, thank you for the reporting from Kharkiv. Talk to us about what you expect from these 3 days, given the fact that that Xi Jinping just said moments ago, reiterated his willingness to work with Vladimir Putin to, quote, safeguard the international order. This is after Putin, just before invading Ukraine, talked about their relationship, these two leaders, as a no-limits partnership.
That's right. I worry about two different things here. The first Ivan raised before, which is, do we see arms? And, basically, do we see the Chinese getting further into this war? I think the second thing to look for is whether or not in some kind of peace proposal for an armistice or a ceasefire, essentially the Chinese come in on the side of the Russians to try to cement the gains that they have right now. And that's why you're hearing from the Americans and from President Zelensky and Ukrainians great concern that China would seek in some way to reward Russia and basically freeze this the way the Korean conflict has been frozen now for 50 or 60 years.
This seems to be what they're really worried about, the U.S., in terms of trying to preempt. John Kirby, who's going to come on the program a little later today, has been saying it would not be acceptable. So China's trying to play this peacemaker, but it would not be acceptable for China to come out and say, okay, let's push towards peace right now in this moment, because in this moment, Russia has taken more Ukrainian territory than obviously before the invasion.
Okay, but
that's right. And
okay, I hate this conversation. A lot of liberals said this too. That's how wars end. Like, no matter what. That's how wars end. That's just how wars end. It can end with like a total surrender and evisceration of one side. But that's ultimately, no matter what happens, that's how wars end.
That's a significant worry. On the other hand, the Chinese have to be a little bit cautious here. And they have to be cautious because they're worried about Europe. They would like to make sure that Europe does not join in any sanctions against China, that Europe and the United States do not tighten this bond that has been created since the war began. And, Europe's a major trading partner for them and is continuing to take a good deal of their technology. So I think they're not going to want to get in too deep. And that's one reason I think that they've probably been cautious so far in providing weapons to the Russians. The problem is the Russians don't have very many other places to turn right now. Their only other sources are Iran and North Korea. And obviously the quality of that is not up to what China can give them.
Also, David, what it says about China on the world stage, because this comes after China just brokered that diplomatic deal with Iran and Saudi Arabia. Now we're seeing them try to assert themselves in this way, saying, you know, that they are this powerful influence when it comes to international order.
They would love nothing more, Caitlin, than to play the role that the United States played during much of the Cold War and post-Cold War period, which is the central player.
Dog. Okay. That's what. Wait, what? Bro. What? I wouldn't say Cold War. I'd say post-Cold War, sure. During the Cold War, the role that the United States played was insane, dog. They were not keeping the peace, homie. What the fuck? That's a wild fucking take, but to be charitable to what he's saying, I think he's doing liberal analysis of the Cold War, where the United States was like supposedly cutting deals and peacemaking. Yeah. They were really peaceful, dude. Always, like historically, the most peaceful.
That everybody had to come to so that they could organize the world on the basis and the rules that they consider advantageous. And they think the United States did this from the end of World War II in 1945 through to just a few years ago. And that's why it was so important to them to play this role between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and would be important to them to do this now. And of course, the United States not only doesn't want to give up its position on that, but it also is suspicious that China is not the neutral player that it pretends to be. Of course, that's what the Chinese say about the United States.
All of it very interesting optics for Vladimir Putin, especially after just visiting Mariupol, like going to the war zone, David. What do you make of that?
It is. I mean, he was doing two or three things there, Don. The first is he wanted to say, this is my territory now. You know, this is an area that obviously they not only bombed and destroyed, but it's an area where they kidnapped many of those children for whom he was indicted by the International Criminal Court. I think the second thing he was saying was, the indictment means nothing to me. In fact, they'll continue with all of their activities.
To be honest, the U.S. is just as awful as Russia. Bitch, what do you mean? The United States has done what Russia is doing to Ukraine so many times, and with more guns, and with infinitely less scrutiny from the international community. Russia wishes they could be as bad as the United States, okay? Like, there's no comparison. That doesn't mean that, like, Russia's not doing horrifying shit in Ukraine. They are. But, like, Putin wishes he could have America's dick, bro. What are you talking about? Holy shit. Americans don't even think about the several countries who are bombing currently. Yeah, like, just, no, I can't even, like, begin to compare it. Like, that's a crazy competition that every country will lose dramatically to.
In Mariupol that they have done until now. So it was a real act of defiance.
It's, like, funny to consider because this is the 20th anniversary of, like, shock and awe, too. Like, literally. Just, like, we are so fucking gross, dude. Yeah, this is the 20th anniversary of the Iraq invasion. Yeah, like, right now, on this day.
And clearly getting the endorsement of having Xi Jinping show up for their 39th meeting since the two of them took over as leaders. That's pretty significant.
All right, David Sanger, always a pleasure. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
On my orders, coalition.
Iraq 20 years later, a changed nation and a terrible toll on America. Oh, man. So we're going to get to shock and awe in a second. Oh, I saw this. John Kirby and his takes on a ceasefire. Let's take a look at what he has to say.
That if
coming out of this meeting, there's some sort of call for a ceasefire. Well, that's just going to be unacceptable because all that's going to do, Mike, is ratify Russia's conquest to date. All that's going to do is give Mr. Putin more time to refit, retrain, reman, and try to.
Is wild because I've heard this verbatim from like random liberals in my chat. What an incredible state of affairs when like I got libs in the chat saying John Kirby's lines verbatim, but for free. Like at least he's getting paid to say it. Like you're just doing it for free, man. That's crazy.
To plan for renewed offensives at a time of his choosing. We hope, and we've said this before, that President Xi will call and talk to President Zelensky because we believe the Chinese need to get the Ukrainian perspective here. Okay. That if...
Why does this not work on the other side? You're eating your fucking macaroni and you're telling me a ceasefire would be good for Ukrainians? A ceasefire would be good for everybody across the board. Of course, it would be bad for Americans, but... ultimately, most likely won't happen, I don't think, because of sentiments like this expressed by the likes of John Kirby and everybody else. Yeah, he called you a noodle boy. First of all, I'm not eating a macaroni. I'm eating a salad. Get it right. Secondly, if peacefire or ceasefire, if ceasefire is good for Russia so they can re-up their armaments or whatever, why can't you say the same about Ukraine? Like, that argument is so fucking stupid. That's the part I don't understand. Where they're like, okay, well, you're pumping like literally limitless amounts of guns. You know, you can train the F-16 pilots in Ukraine in the meantime. You know what I mean? And galvanize Ukraine's defenses. Fuck you mean? It's like, no, only Russia will benefit from it. Okay, I guess so. Well, they're getting their fucking dicks pushed, okay? Anyway, Americans are not as bad as Russians? What? What, like random citizens? The fuck do you mean? What? This is such a stupid conversation to have. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't know what context you are saying this in, but like ultimately it doesn't even fucking matter. If you were talking about like Americans justifying Iraq in the 20th anniversary of Iraq, you know, I got another thing to tell you. You like shitting on people? No, I don't actually. I hate shitting on people. Unless they're like Republican mouthpieces, you know? L take from Hasan, like Crimea prompted Ukrainian prep to prevent this war. Guys, if you think that like this is going to come to an end anytime soon, I don't know what to tell you. You know, we'll just keep watching from over here. Do you hate being wrong? Not really. I think I'm a human being. I can be wrong. I have demonstrated that I have the capability of being wrong. So anyway, look, for everybody who's saying that, you know, it's good that the war continues. It's good that the war continues. Like, okay, good luck. You know, it's like, it's not like what we say is going to change anything. You know what I mean?
And a ceasefire now, without a durable solution, would allow President Putin to rest and refit his troops and then restart the war at a time more advantageous to Russia. The world should not be fooled by any tactical move by Russia, supported by China or any other country, to freeze the war.
This looks like a deep
on
thing.
its own terms. Such a move would violate the UN Charter and defy the will of 141 countries.
It's also fair to ask, how could this end any other way than a ceasefire? Libs just want to keep Russia bleeding at all costs. As far as polling in the EU goes, public sentiments have shifted to wanting some kind of end to the war. Yeah, of course it has. It's not that you're wrong. It's that you have no empathy for Ukrainians in this one issue for some weird reason. I do have empathy for Ukrainians. That's why I think a ceasefire is more important than like continuing fucking Russia's unjustifiable invasion. I think it's the empathetic position to take. It's not one, it is not a sentiment shared by Ukrainians, but I think a ceasefire should come with conditions and also a process in which they talk about whatever territory Ukraine gets back in the situation. It is liberal brain rot to assume that continuing war is the more empathetic thing. You know what I mean? Ukrainians don't agree with me, but I'm right anyways. I mean, yeah, there are plenty of people that could fucking say that, Ukrainians ultimately have this, do not share the sentiment. But you're also not really thinking about what I'm saying here. Okay? While I don't think Russia would ever give back Crimea, a ceasefire and any kind of negotiation starting literally opens the door to that conversation of like Russian territory that is now expanded into further and further in beyond LPR, but further into Donbass especially, and possibly giving that land back to the Ukrainians. You know what I mean? These are all conversations that you could have when you're no longer shelling one another. Okay? These are not necessarily conversations you can have while you're currently shelling one another and while people are dying. You are the one who associates a ceasefire with like whatever the fuck Western media is telling you is going to continue making the... Yo, dog, I didn't know you were a CCP mouthpiece when I subbed. Oh, I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sorry to inform you, but this is a Top G platform. Like that's my sentiment on this. I said from the top, from the jump that the Minsk agreements would have put an end to a lot of this conversation, and I think that ultimately that is literally looking like the best possible outcome that could have happened in comparison to what has happened thus far. But you can also make the argument that like, well, neither side wanted to fucking, follow through on the Minsk agreement, which is true. But if the big daddies got involved, China on the one side and the United States on the other, in a totally different world, in a totally different universe where the military-industrial complex is not our most viable and most important industry, and the United States does not care about, pursuing capital interests for the military-industrial complex, and they were genuinely in favor of like preventing senseless bloodshed, they would go for a ceasefire and then set the terms for Ukrainian emancipation, especially considering America's dick being bigger in the room. And, there could be some reasonable solution that most likely resembles something similar to the Minsk agreement. But regardless, no matter what happens, one thing that I need everyone to understand is that there is nothing we say is going to change anything. You can get mad at me all you want, okay? But I think that even if you believe that like Ukraine deserves to get back Crimea, okay, an understandable position, sentiment shared by Ukrainians, okay, the only solution towards that is by starting off a ceasefire negotiation and getting to the table and having that conversation rather than fucking shelling endlessly back and forth. Do you get it? You are the one who claims to know what's best for the Ukrainians and their future. They have agency. We just say the Palestinians, they have to do a ceasefire in order to set terms of peace with Israel. This is such a gross example to set because the Palestinians are not getting an endless amount of fucking supply to fight back against the state of Israel. As a matter of fact, the same people are funding and facilitating Israel's evisceration of Palestinian people. So I don't know how you can fucking get away with even saying something like this without Allah smiting you from where you stand. If there was truly a just God, anyone that even tried to exercise the same level of processing power to put that word forward, even to talk about some of the most unjustifiable apartheid violence that is currently happening, that is totally normalized in the Western world, that no one even fucking bats an eye at, and then comparing it to like Russia's invasion, unjustifiable and inhumane invasion of Ukraine, where the very same military machine is also funding and funneling weapons into Ukraine, is insane. Like, it's just such a fucking stupid comparison. It blows my fucking mind. It's like, yeah, if my aunt had 4 wheels, I'd call her a fucking car type shit, okay? Like, crazy. It's insane. Yeah, if Palestinians and Israelis were engaging in the same kind of territorial dispute, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you oblivious to the reality? It is completely different. And also, on top of that, the funny part about this that Faustini would also agree with is that we don't give the Ukrainians everything that they want, regardless of how honest, how just, how normal or not how normal their interest is in emancipation, right? It's a human interest to no longer have invaders inside of your borders. That is why I always say the Ukrainian cause is just. To rid the country of Russian invasion is a completely just and moral thing, okay? It is a moral demand. But we don't give the Ukrainians a nuke. We don't give the Ukrainians Article 5 privileges. We don't give the Ukrainians even F-16 so far. We probably will eventually, but not yet. They want all of those things. They want fucking NATO intervention, but we don't do that for Ukrainians. But I don't see you fucking complaining about that shit, being like, well, we're not doing everything for Ukraine. Turns out we do have limitations on how much help we can offer Ukraine. So why don't you go yell at your fucking, I don't know, why don't you yell at your government to make sure that we do those things so we can have nuclear holocaust, so I don't have to fucking hear your dumbass takes ever again, like a ceasefire cannot happen because Television Man told me ceasefire bad, even though a ceasefire and then favorable terms for the Ukrainians would be the obviously best case scenario out of this circumstance. But no, you have to make like psychotic comparisons to fucking Palestinian emancipation as they are currently living under a horrific theocratic ethno-state, apartheid state that is eviscerating their existence, where 1 million plus Palestinians live in the largest open-air prison called Gaza that's being endlessly bombed and shelled non-fucking stop by our weapons. And then the rest of them are also under occupation. That is, again, completely illegal. But nobody gives a fuck about international law when it's America or its allies doing the unjustifiable thing. There can be no favorable discussion for Ukrainians during ceasefire. This is fantasy. Fantasy or not, the fact that, both superpowers involved in this are not advocating for this endlessly is really fucking stupid. And I, as a completely powerless political commentator, I'm not going to stop saying that is the right thing to do. Also, yeah, I do agree that the United States should treat Palestine like they treat Ukraine. That would be fire, but that'll never happen.
Who have condemned Russia's war in the United Nations General Assembly.
Hasanabi, you're so wrong, bro. I didn't even say anything that is disagreeable. Like, that is the wild part about it, is that, like, I am literally saying that I would want favorable terms for Ukraine and Ukrainian emancipation in a ceasefire. And the ceasefire itself is like unimaginable to you because you live in Iowa. You don't give a fuck one way or the other. You go on Reddit and masturbate to war porn that's happening where like 18-year-old Ukrainians are getting fucking domed. And then, they're doing trench warfare, but that's hot for you. You know what I mean? You're just sitting there and jerking off. You're like, yeah, I feel like a cyber warrior when I put the Ukrainian flag in my bio so they can fucking die in some gray-ass, snow-covered, pussy fucking town. Yeah, I can't wait for another fan cam of like, some dumbass 19-year-old Russian conscript that doesn't want to even fucking be there, that didn't even know what the fuck's going on, have a grenade dropped on him from a fucking UAV. You know what I mean? It's sick. Love that. No, it sucks. It fucking sucks. It absolutely is unimaginably cruel that ultimately the only one that is benefiting from this is straight up the American war machine, the American war industry. Why did you raise $250,000 for Putin, huh? Yeah, true. Remember when I did that for the LPR DPR recognition fund? Oh, wait, I didn't do that. I actually raised it for Ukrainian refugees. But hey, you'll never hear that from the fucking dumbass liberals that are just not interested in anything, but just interested in winning debates. All right. Now, speaking of our war crimes, this is a very important day in the history of the United States of America, but one that is probably lost in a sea of war crimes that we have engaged in over the course of the many, many years that we've been around. This is the 20-year anniversary of our shock and awe campaign that is, how wonderful that we're just talking about how like that chatter saying, seems like Americans are a little bit, or seems like Russians are like just like Americans, but like maybe a little bit worse. Well, maybe you can make an assessment for yourself. It's going to be really hard for you to perhaps see the victims of America's war crimes in this regard as full human beings because they aren't white. But just imagine in your mind, for the sake of this argument, that they're like Ukrainian children that America's doing this to, and maybe it'll, I don't know, maybe you'll develop like a different perspective on the matter.
Forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
We welcome you back to CBS Mornings with the moment that President George W. Bush announced the U.S. had invaded Iraq back in 2003, nearly 20 years ago today. The justification at the time that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Those weapons, of course, famously and consequentially were never found. And while Iraqi
Wow. CBS still running fucking defense for the American State Department is the best thing. I mean, this is the greatest example of that. Brother, everybody knows you lied on purpose. Why the fuck are you still defending them? Like there was ever a real weapon of mass destruction. At the time, the United Nations' own investigative teams openly stated that there were no weapons of mass destruction found in any Iraqi facility whatsoever. America, like, very openly lied about it. It's probably one of the most visible, most obvious, glaringly obvious fucking lies that the U.S. government has ever told at the international scale. There have been endless amounts of evidence for everybody knowing that it was a fucking lie, and yet for some reason, you listen to CBS Morning 20 years later, and they're like, oh, they were looking for it, but they were never found. Just fucking say it was a lie, you fucking asshole. Everybody knows.
Operation Iraqi Freedom led to the fall of Saddam's brutal regime. It also cost the lives of around 4,500 American service members and hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians. Charlie D'Agata covered the conflict from the very beginning. We dug up the footage to prove it. There he is, 20 years ago. He's now back in Baghdad for this grim anniversary. Charlie, what a consequential moment in 21st century history. Good morning.
Good morning to you from Baghdad, a very different Baghdad than 20 years ago. When I first came here, people were still living in fear under Saddam Hussein. Then the invasion, the fighting, the rise and fall of...
I can't watch this. I can't. This is disgusting. Oh my God. I'm getting whiplash from watching Russia try to do like half as effective as like a military campaign as what America did in Iraq. Like, we watch Russian propaganda on this network all the time, right? On this channel all the time. We laugh about it because it's laughably bad. Okay? Meanwhile, this motherfucking piece of shit, this $400 haircut, okay, with no soul, this ghoul, this demon, is over here being like, yeah, people were so scared. Faustini, something we can agree on. Shock and awe was a disgusting war crime and nothing close to Russians bombing Kyiv. There you go. Even Faustini fucking agrees, okay? And it doesn't compare. Like, it literally doesn't compare. You can be the greatest NatSec ass sucker, okay? But you cannot fucking turn around and literally refuse to recognize how devastating this shit was. Millions, okay? We murdered millions of Iraqi civilians. Millions. Holy fuck. Millions before with sanctions, and then millions after with direct bombing campaigns and a boots on the ground military invasion. We used depleted uranium munitions. We used white phosphorus. Just the absolute fucking, just the absolute worst shit you can imagine. Al Jazeera has much better coverage over this, but I'm like scared there's going to be TOS in this probably. Al Jazeera just like fucking lets it rip. I've heard people on the right even say the government lied about weapons of mass destruction. Yes. 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 This is like, well, it's already a fact. It's a very well-established fact. Which is why I'm surprised that like these fucking dipshits are even... I mean, I guess I'm not surprised. They're just polishing it, you know?
ISIS. The violence has now subsided, but it's taken a horrific toll. 20 years since shock and awe. 20 years since that night, airstrikes and cruise missiles lit up the skies over Baghdad, paving the way for U.S. ground troops to converge on the capital. In the first few weeks of the war, a group of Iraqi civilians had gathered here and began attacking the statue of Saddam Hussein. It was an event that was shown live on TV screens around the globe. A U.S. Marine unit collared the statue, yanking it until it...
Bro, this is so disgusting. For the liberals in the chat, this is literally it's so funny that Putin is in Mariupol right now. Or Putin went to Mariupol. Because, this is the same exact shit. Oh, look how they're welcoming me in Mariupol. And the difference is, there are at least some, this is not justifiable, but there are at least some fucking people who are like, no, I am actually pro-Russia. There's no one in Iraq that's like, I feel American, okay? Because America is thousands of fucking miles away from Iraq. No one is like, oh yeah, we speak the same language. Thank God the American liberators are here. And if the Putin invasion of Russia, or fucking keep saying that, the Putin invasion of Ukraine is unjustifiable, which it is not justifiable, then the American invasion of Iraq is definitely not justifiable. Okay?
Toppled to the ground. The crowd beat it with sticks and shoes, dragging its decapitated head through the streets. It came to symbolize the collapse of the Saddam regime. In reality, the Battle of Iraq had only just begun. Saddam's removal sparked a ferocious insurgency and a bloody and prolonged sectarian conflict.
We've been through a lot. We saw some things no one should see. We lived days no one should live.
Ahmed al-Jabouri was 13 years old when the country was invaded. His wife, Muja, was 9.
What was it like here?
We were looking for something better.
Bro, this is so nasty. God. Oh, every part of this is so fucking gross, dude. This is really, 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 really fucking gross shit, dude. I don't. Oh my God, this is disgusting. Absolutely the worst level of fucking retconning. Just so scummy. So indecent. You are such a monster for cutting this fucking propaganda, you piece of shit, you fucking dog, coward, bitch, motherfucker. This fucking asshole. Oh, it makes my blood boil. Guys, please explain like I'm 5. There is no explanation. They're doing every single thing that they always do whenever America invades a fucking country or has any kind of interest in a fucking country. They unjustifiably invaded Iraq. They knew that it was fucking bullshit. They lied to the entire international community. They went and they bombed the fuck out of Baghdad. They bombed so many parts of Iraq. Okay? They literally destroyed the lives of millions of Iraqi civilians. Okay? They used depleted uranium. They used white phosphorus, all of which are literal war crimes. And not only that, but 20 years later, they turned around, openly recognized that it was bullshit. Bush even had the audacity to fucking say, oh man, unjustifiable invasion of Iraq. I mean, Ukraine. Well, Iraq too. Like literally last year, and everybody laughed about it. Highway of Death was not this iteration. For those of you who don't know, Highway of Death was Bush Sr. That's how much we fucked with Iraq, okay? Highway of Death is not even this Bush that did what you're referencing. That's the old Bush. That's Daddy Bush that did Highway of Death. That's not even considered as like a war crime, even though that is precisely a fucking war crime. That was a war crime so gross and so obvious on retreating forces where there were men, women, and children, okay, pregnant women and shit, that we unloaded into, okay? The depleted uranium and its impact is still noticeable in Iraq because it has a higher rate of birth defects in Iraq to this day, 20 years later, than Vietnam. Another country that we absolutely had no business being inside of that we fucking destroyed. So to look at that, this false pretense that this war was justifiable and having the indecency to make it seem like it was an Operation Iraqi Liberation, Operation Iraqi Democracy, Iraqi Freedom, 20 years after the fact, when everybody fucking understands universally that this was completely unacceptable, okay? The fact that you are still running defense for something that George W. Bush himself personally recognized was bullshit, it makes my blood boil. It is so gross. It's so vile. Fuck all of these animals, okay? Every single one of these media demons deserves the absolute worst punishments. I cannot in good conscience sit here and act like these people are not violent, barbarian animals that justified and defended through one of the most popular forms of fucking media, the complete evisceration of the lives of millions of Iraqi people. And that is being like very conservative when I describe this. This is before we get to Abu Ghraib. This is before we get to like wanton punishments, cruel, unusual punishments that no one should have ever been subjected to. This is before we talk about the torture. And I don't even mean the torture that they defended that the CIA did at black sites that they considered a form of enhanced interrogation that was proven to be ineffective regardless, but it doesn't matter because cruelty was the purpose. I'm talking straight up torture that the U.S. military engaged in. There is nothing. These men, and there are a lot of veterans in here that also participated in this, who are fucking tormented by that experience every single day of their lives. But what these people did, what we did at the behest of the military-industrial complex in Iraq, at the behest of like securing natural resources like we always do. What we did back then is akin to Nazi shit, okay? If you want to understand it that way, you can understand it that way, I hope. Never forget that in the immediate invasion of Iraq, the only fucking ministry that was secured was the Ministry of Energy. Every other ministry was absolutely eviscerated. Burned to the fucking ground, pillaged. The only ministry that was secured was the Ministry of Energy. I wonder why.
One day, like, it's very affected me that I opened the door waiting for my friend to come to go to school, and I found 2 kids, like maybe 4 or 5 years old, like in front of our house.
The bodies of 2
The
children.
bodies of 2 children.
Muja experienced similar horror. My mom was taking me to school. She said, "We saw dogs eating the dead bodies. I will never forget that in my life." Kidnappings and bombings became a daily occurrence.
So I still remember the shouting and the...
Like, look at the way that they're using neutrality here when they're covering it. Like, they're making it seem like Iraqi people were being fucked over by other people in Iraq. That volatility in Iraq was directly caused by the United States of motherfucking America. The kidnappings were conducted by the American military. Let's be fucking real, okay? When they weren't directly doing that, when they weren't directly doing the kidnapping or murdering fucking teachers or murdering fucking babies, okay? Their instability is what created a power vacuum that created ISIS, which we played a role in, by the way.
Screaming and the fire and the smoke everywhere.
Today, the city may feel more secure, but the couple does not.
I'm waiting for the next thing to happen.
Really?
Really. Every day you wake up in the morning and you expect the worst. Every single day.
Yet, they're determined to stay here. They're expecting their first baby in September. In today's Baghdad, the marketplaces are bustling. Most of the concrete blast walls and barbed wire are gone. Iraqis tell us they're determined to put the country's troubled, bloody history behind them. We spoke with U.S. Ambassador to Iraq, Alina Romanowski, who's on a visit to Washington, D.C.
There's still much more that all of us could be doing, but I think we're on a cautiously optimistic path.
What's like literal fucking demons, dude? Blood-sucking demons. Straight up.
Working now that hasn't been working in the past?
Well, I think there are a number of things that are working now. First of all, I think you have a government that is committed
Thank you, Not Your Average African, for the timestamps.
To, improving the lives and the services for Iraqi people.
We're going to cover Al Jazeera. Hold on.
It is a government that is very clearly interested in building a future for Iraq.
After so much bloodshed and chaos, it may take years to build that future for Iraq. But 2 decades after the invasion that upended this country, there is finally hope that they can.
I hope CBS Morning does some news like this in Libya Street on the slave markets too. U.S. intervention good? Yeah. No, it's awesome. Now, I'm going to finish this gross depiction of jerking off the American, the violent, bloodthirsty American military machine. And then we'll cover a little bit more of a real perspective on Iraq 20 years later.
Now, there are some serious challenges ahead. Iran's influence continues to be a problem, and 2,500 U.S. troops still remain here. Top U.S. general here told us the primary role is to ensure that ISIS doesn't reform and launch another attack on the country. Vlad?
Charlie D'Agata with monumental reporting then and now. Charlie, thank you very much. As Charlie points out, there's so many seminal moments from that time. First beginning with Colin Powell appearing before the UN.
Like, I think I would literally, I would lock these motherfuckers in a cage. Like, I'll just straight up say it, okay? I think these guys are doing jailable shit too, okay? Straight up. Like, the moment that you look at Iraq 20 years later, when everyone objectively understands that it is, like, completely unimaginably cruel, and you try to make it seem like it's, like, reasonable, acceptable, you take, like, a wishy-washy stance on it, I would throw you in jail. Straight up. If I had any kind of power, this is the world. If there was any justice in this world, you would literally jail every fucking piece of shit that is in the media that played an active role in justifying the war, which we're going to get to, by the way. Remember, everyone's got their choice bits of vintage Iraq commentary. This one's still mine. Not sure if anything tops it. This fucking demon still writes for the New York Times. This fucking demon still writes for the New York Times. This was in May 2003. Please watch Thomas Friedman go and advocate for some of the most insane shit.
That basically built up over the 1990s said, flying airplanes into the World Trade Center, that's okay. Wrapping yourself with dynamite and blowing up Israelis in a pizza parlor, that's okay. Because we're weak and they're strong and the weak have a different morality. Having your preachers say that's okay, that's okay. Having your charities raise money for people who do these kinds of things, that's okay. And having your press call people who do these kind of things martyrs, that's okay. And that built up as a bubble, Charlie. And 9/11 to me was the peak of that bubble. And what we learned on 9/11 in a gut way was that that bubble was a fundamental threat to our open society. Because there is no wall high enough, no INSA.
This piece of shit writes for the New York Times still. Understand that these demons were never punished. You will never get punished for defending the American military apparatus. You will only get elevated to higher and higher positions in the media. This is why so many people inherently mistrust the mainstream media, okay? I cover it all the time. I have a lot of journalist friends. I talk about the media biases all the fucking time. But never forget that when it comes to America's foreign policy and America's allies and America's declared nation-state enemies, they will always toe the bottom line of the State Department. They will always defend capital. Okay? Always. Never forget that. Just like at the top of the hour, the only way to defend against the 3-minute ad break is by subscribing. You can do that by subscribing for $5. You can do that by subscribing for free with a Twitch Prime. You can do that by getting gifted a sub. Here's the 3-minute ad break now, though. I wish Thomas Friedman watches all the ads for the rest of his life.
Agent smart enough, no metal detector efficient enough to protect an open society from people motivated by that bubble. And what we needed to do was go over to that part of the world, I'm afraid, and burst that bubble. We needed to go over there, basically, and take out a very big stick, right in the heart of that world.
Show you a fucking very big stick, you goddamn animal.
And burst that bubble. And there was only one way to do it. Because part of that bubble said, we've got you. This bubble is actually going to level the balance of power between us and you because we don't care about life. We're ready to sacrifice, and all you care about are your stock options and your Hummers. And what they needed to see was American boys and girls going house to house from Basra to Baghdad and basically saying, which part of this sentence don't you understand? You don't think, we care about our open...
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's what like 14-year-old girls needed to understand. That like some fucking juiced up freak Marine breaking their fucking door and coming in and terrifying them and maybe even killing their family members. Like they needed to know that. Why? For the crime of being born in fucking Fallujah. For the crime of being born in Baghdad. For the crime of being born in a nation that America wanted their juicy fucking natural supplies. Okay? That's it. Saddam was an awful demon in many respects. And yet America was so fucked that they made Saddam look good. Which, by the way, they also made Saddam in general, but that's a different point. That's, we're talking, older American lore at that point. Like, objectively speaking, despite the fact that Saddam Hussein was a fucking demon, okay, in many respects, Iraq was objectively in a better place when he was manning the fucking helm before the American invasion. That's how crazy America is. Friedman's sociopathy is honestly appreciated. Sociopathic honesty is appreciated. The Iraq War was about picking a vulnerable Muslim nation, one that we'd already decimated with bombs and sanctions to exert American might upon. Every lie about the WMDs in service of that impulse. It was a show of force. Anyway, I can't literally finish one fucking clip without like getting insanely triggered.
Society, you think this bubble...
Bruh, not true. He gassed the Kurds. Happy Nowruz to my Kurds. Oh my God, dude. I know. That's why I said he was a fucking demon. Okay, shut up.
Fantasy, we're just going to let it grow. Well, suck on this. Okay? And basically saying, which part of this sentence don't you understand? You don't think, we care about our open society? You think this bubble fantasy, we're just going to let it grow? Well, suck on this.
I love when like effete libs just show their might in the exact same way that Ben Shapiro does by basically just fucking talking about how the American military machine literally bullying and eviscerating a fucking much poorer nation whose dictatorship we basically solidified, whose chemical weapons we gave him to use on the Kurdish population, like that fucking chatter was talking about. Okay. Mustard gas and the like. Like Thomas Friedman gets to feel like a big man when America's doing genocidal war crimes in Iraq. You know what I mean? Like a big man. He's like, yeah, suck on this. Fucking violent demon. You vulturous monster. You fucking venomous whore. I hate these fucking demons. I hate them so much. I cannot say exactly what I want to happen to them. It would be a severe, almost gross, but justifiable terms of service violation. I will not be saying it, but I'm thinking it, and you can't stop me from thinking it. You can't. Every single one of these fucking pieces of shit are, pretty much most of them, are alive and well and already running around and have already moved on from the Iraq shit. You are being censored, bro? What do you mean?
Okay. That, Charlie, was what this war was about. We could have hit Saudi Arabia. It was part of that bubble. Could have hit Pakistan. We hit Iraq because we could. That's the real truth. And the message...
An animal.
People who do these kind of... The terrorism bubble that basically built up over the 1990s said, flying airplanes into the World Trade Center.
This was May 2003. Clip doesn't quite capture it, but they're talking about Iraq in a past tense. The question Friedman is answering is, now that the war is over and there's some difficulty with the peace, was it worth doing? This is the thread that we're going to be looking at now. Thomas Friedman in 2002 May, noting how the U.S. is lucky because we only occasionally get one-off freaks like Timothy McVeigh because Americans are just so naturally trusting of each other. Now, that's what I'd call a failure to imagine. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, look at where we're at now. For those of you too young to have lived through what happened 20 years ago, and I was certainly not only not too young, but I remember it vividly as someone who would visit the United States of America, okay, frequently. This is something I'm very familiar with. This is in the pocket, okay? We're talking, you know, I saw this happen. I watched it from afar. I watched it from Turkey. And I certainly saw it happen in America as well whenever I visited. It's very difficult for me to talk about without getting like incredibly, just without violating the terms of service. Ironic because like if there was a just world, like what they're claiming, what they find to be totally just and normal, which is the real bloodshed. Okay, you're tough Hasan from your war-torn Turkey. I never said that. That's why I said I watched it from afar and not from the United States of America. Also, you literally live in bumfuck Iowa. Shut the fuck up. Like, you literally not only play a role in this war machine, okay, you championed it, and your stupid inbred hick honky fucking parents also championed it, okay? So shut the fuck up. You pig fuck. You dumb Angloid idiot. Your dumb inbred cousin fucking parents loved the fucking military, loved the endless fucking military conquest. It made you feel like a big boy when they were doing it. It made you feel like some fucking sheep herder in Iraq was actually a threat to your freedom of speech when the American government already has taken everything away from you, and you deserve the serfdom that you live in, okay? And you will never have a good life. You're tough Hasan from your war-torn Turkey. I'm talking about the story, your story you told. I'm talking about your New Jersey story. I agree with you about Iraq. What do you mean my New Jersey story? Like, what are you talking about? What do you think I like actually fucking was on the rooftops in New Jersey dancing when 9/11 happened? That's a joke. You got roasted for no reason. I'm sorry. If I popped off on you for no reason, I apologize. No, I'm sorry. Maybe I misunderstood what he was saying. This is okay. I'm gonna control my emotions a little bit more. When we talk about the death of millions of Iraqi people, I do tend to get a little bit more aggressive, or the evisceration of the otherwise Muslim world at the hands of the American military state, at the behest of the military-industrial complex, so that we could do a $6, $7, $8 trillion war on terror that has opened up so many fucking rifts and has caused hundreds of millions of people almost at this point to be displaced, robbed from their homes, removed from their everyday existence, and has made it so much harder for Muslim people, refugees specifically, to live in the Western world. It's difficult for me to, it's difficult for me to be reasonable and even-keeled when talking about this shit. Okay? So I apologize if I misunderstood that person and popped off on him. Let's continue. Michael Ignatieff's infamous New York Times Magazine cover story from January 2003. Ignatieff was founding director of Harvard's Carr Center for Human Rights. America's empire is not like empires of times past, built on colonies, conquest, and the white man's burden. We are no longer in the era of the United Fruit Company when American corporations needed the Marines to secure their investments overseas. The 21st century imperium is a new invention in the annals of political science, an empire light, a global hegemony whose grace notes are free markets, human rights, and democracy enforced by the most awesome military power the world has ever known. It is the imperialism of people who remember that their country secured its independence by revolt against an empire. Yeah, that's what we did. We did the Boston Tea Party on, fucking Iraq. Is this another one of those like fucking weirdo Canadians? Yeah, it is, isn't it? This is another one of those freak fuck Canadian dipshits that come over the border from Snow, Mexico to the United States of America and basically take over every fucking liberal institution and try to do a more polite war crime, okay? There is nothing I despise more. Go back to your fucking country. You have health care. Stop trying to further undermine the American working class's existence. Go and fucking destroy Canada. You sacre bleu, hon, baguette eating, maple syrup sucking dipshit. I hate them so much. I don't know if he's actually Quebecois or not, but it doesn't matter. Sorry for the Quebecers that caught a fucking stray there. Nothing worse than living in another like another fucking English state that still is subservient to the fucking queen, and then coming to America and then like, you know, doing more American shit. Jordan Peterson, fucking Steven Crowder. What's that dickhead at the New York Times? There's another one. This fucking asshole, Michael Ignatieff. No, I'm not talking about fucking... Stop. I'm not talking about like XQC or Justin Bieber or fucking even Drake, okay? I'm talking about all these conservative-ass Canucks who come over here and try to LARP as a fucking LARP. Brett Stevens, thank you. That's who I was thinking of. Fuck you, Brett Stevens. There should be an INS specifically for Canadian LARPers who come here and they're like, I love America, brother. We should do more wars, right? And it's like, fuck you. You are being deported. Gavin McGinnis, Tom McDonald, just ship him to Alberta. New Yorker editor David Remnick's Case for Invasion, 26th of January 2003. New York Times executive editor Bill Keller, the I Can't Believe I'm a Hawk Club, February 8th. We reluctant hawks may disagree amongst ourselves about the most compelling logic for war. Protecting America, relieving oppressed Iraqis, or reforming the Middle East. A civilizing force. Remember, we are the civilizing force against these brutes living in this brutal existence in Iraq. You know what I mean? We're there to civilize them. We're going to reform them. Leon Wieseltier, the literary editor of the New Republic, which, by the way, the New Republic is supposed to be a leftist platform, right? At that time, they were in their Tony Blair style era, I guess. But so can a liberal support this president in this war? I do not see why not. The United States, its needs and its duties is larger than any of its leaders. The war against Saddam Hussein is just, and it is truly a last resort. There was nothing else we could have done. Lawrence F. Kaplan, also from the New Republic. Elie Wiesel, Paul Berman, Joseph Nye et al., Liberals for War. And Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor and Nobel Peace Laureate, emerged from a meeting with President Bush last month and declared that while he is not a man of war, he supports it as a way to stop Saddam Hussein. Anne-Marie Slaughter, Dean of Princeton School of Public and International Affairs. Remember, these are liberal institutions. What's up? Thomas Friedman, three-time New York Times Pulitzer winner, New York Times columnist. D-Day is a very famous one. We already saw Thomas Friedman's takes. This is just a tiny selection from the U.S., not the UK. Feel free to post more as a tribute to the groupthink that created this huge disaster for Iraq, the region, and the world. These are just the liberals, by the way. These are just the liberals that were also like very public, very prominent, very like loud liberal voices that were also championing this war from liberal outlets and liberal institutions. All right, let's get to Al Jazeera.
His sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours.
These are Arabs who are going to welcome us as liberators.
Who will govern Iraq when Saddam Hussein is removed?
The U.S. invasion of Iraq was supposed to be easy.
That guy's a goat, by the way. That guy's a goat. He's cool as fuck. The guy who threw the shoe at him, 032 and 319. Thank you. Yeah. This is from the widows and the orphans and those who were killed in Iraq. That's what he said. He's a journalist.
The most powerful military in world history would go in, kill the bad guys, and transform Iraq into a democratic, pro-American oasis. But the Iraq War blew up in America's face.
Stuff happens.
And it changed both countries. It changed the...
Wait, from 032 to 319 or no? Just on 032. You have to say the shoe dodge was one of the few impressive things Bush ever did. I know. I fucking hate that he's like so nimble. I actually hate that Bush dodged those shoes. It really fucked me up. To see a dude so fucking nimble, so quick with it, like I hated that. Like you can't even let people just like experience a crumb of joy by just eating that fucking shoe directly to the face. You know what I mean? You had to also be good. I hate that. It was impressive, which sucked. Exactly. Just so fucking annoying. Fuck
The entire
you.
Middle East. In fact, it changed much of our world forever.
Oh, Mike! Friend of the show, Mike Prisner, also a veteran, yelling at George W. Bush at, I think that same conference where he was like, accidentally went into Iraq, something like that. Mike Prisner of Empire Files, the GOAT. He's great.
Should we start? Within weeks of the September 11th attacks, the United States had occupied Afghanistan, where al-Qaeda was based at the time, and removed the ruling Taliban from power. But very quickly after, the George W. Bush administration began selling another war. It wanted to invade Iraq. There was no link between 9/11 and Iraq, so the Bush administration began manufacturing justifications. Iraq was in league with al-Qaeda.
There are al-Qaeda in a number of locations in Iraq.
Iraqis needed saving from their dictator.
Saddam Hussein's violations of human rights.
Iraq had
weapons of mass destruction.
We don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud.
A focus-tested fucking sentiment to sell the Iraq War, a nation that had nothing to do with 9/11, a nation that had nothing to do with fucking Osama bin Laden, just nothing at all, to be, to the invasion of said nation to be sold to the American public. So good.
But those weapons of mass destruction were never found. Millions of people knew invading Iraq was wrong.
Did you watch American Sniper? I really did not think this hard about the Iraq War prior to today. I really thought Chris Kyle was the shit. But now, what was the point of all that? My friend, you were lied to. This is a good eye-opening moment for you. Chris Kyle was a monster. Not only was he a monster and a fucking perpetual liar, he literally was a racist monster, a demon who I would spit on his grave, who came back to the United States of America and was successfully sued by the absolute GOAT, Jesse Ventura, for literally fucking lying about beating Jesse's ass in a bar fight in a book full of other lies. If you know anything about the fucking Navy SEALs anyway, every single one of them that has written a book is usually a liar. They love lying. It's like their favorite thing. Navy SEALs love dropping Black Hawk helicopters, and they love fucking lying, like grossly lying and exaggerating about the things that they did. Chris Kyle was such a racist, monstrous piece of shit that he literally lied about going and sniping black people off the top of the Superdome in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Okay? Straight up. Like, who fucking lies about that, dude? Well, like, why would you... He literally went and found the most racist thing he could make up. Which is wild because, like, it was a real thing that was happening at the time. There were, like, roving gangs of people that were, like, deliberately targeting and shooting at black people that were trying to survive in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Katrina as the American government failed to act fast enough. But Chris Kyle was not one of them, and he still lied about it. Some of them were literally police officers at Danziger Bridge. Yeah.
20 years on, they've been proven right time and time again. The invasion of Iraq resulted in death, destruction, and massive blowback. And it gave us these guys. There's something President George W. Bush said in 2007, 4 years into the invasion of Iraq, that ironically sums up how badly the US messed up. And there's another part of this clip that we'll be coming back to a little later, so pay attention here.
Imagine Iraq where Al-Qaeda.
By the way, they also lumped North Korea into the axis of evil and basically forced them to preemptively get nukes. Not only that, but Iran. Iran was America's continued ally in the fight against Al-Qaeda. Okay, Iran, not really a big fan as Shias, not really a big fan of Sunni fundamentalists. Okay, or Sunni adjacent fundamentalists in general. They're not too fond of Al-Qaeda. Okay. Iran was added into the axis of evil speech that George W. Bush delivered by, was it, who the fuck put him in there? Regardless, They had no interest. Like they didn't have any consideration whatsoever. They just add them in. They added them into the axis of evil. I think it was David Frum, right? No, it was David Frum. Pretty sure. Yeah. David Frum added Iran into the axis of evil speech, and Iran was like, "What the fuck? What are you saying?" And then we continued to have Iran. We continued to rely on Iran for support. In Afghanistan and even in Iraq and certain places, like literally against Al-Qaeda. Even after all that. Yeah, what do you say fuck me for? Yeah, the classic 50 Cent meme.
Has established sanctuaries to...
No, it was George W. Bush, but the speech writer that added Iran into the axis of evil was written by David Frum, I'm pretty sure. David Frum added that. Yeah, the phrase was attributed to former Bush speechwriter David Frum. Yeah. Like, how is this guy literally allowed to breathe the free man's air? You know what I mean? Like, how? God damn it, dude. We all love dogs, but when it comes to both God and content on the internet, cats reign supreme. I mean, Will is a big cat advocate, a cat-vigate. Cats fully understand Arabic and are, as evidenced in this video, more than capable of engaging with a sermon on Ramadan virtues. Humans, on the other hand, still copy from Google Translate. Will is a major advocate for cats. Cats also do run Turkey, but... God, I hate... God, let's get back to this fucking bullshit, please. I mean, I'm fucking losing my mind a little bit.
Safely plot future attacks on targets all over the world.
It's ironic because by the time Bush said this, Al-Qaeda had established itself in Iraq, even though the group wasn't there before the US invaded. As one of the justifications for war, Bush and his officials insisted to an American public still reeling from 9/11 that Al-Qaeda and Iraq were linked.
The reason I keep insisting that there was a relationship between Iraq and Saddam and Al-Qaeda because there was a relationship between Iraq and Al-Qaeda.
Like pretty much all of the Bush administration's justifications for this war, this was a lie. Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda's Osama bin Laden were both Arab men who were once allies of the United States.
True! True. America, the greatest fake friends, dude. Listen, to the Kurds in the chat, remember this shit, okay? Remember. I know you got northern Iraq, okay? American contractors built it for you. You feel like maybe you have, for the first time ever, an opportunity to build like a fucking nation state. 35 million Kurds living in diaspora with no nation state, okay? This is my message. Look at this photo.
Osama bin Laden were both Arab men.
Look at this photograph. That's Donald Rumsfeld, dude, who played a role in fucking murdering this guy later. Do you understand? Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road to peace. Ukrainians, think about this. Ukrainians are like, well, we're white. You know, maybe it's a little different. No, it's not different. They will go back to the Hitler understanding of fucking Slavs not being white like this. They'll go so fast your head will spin. The moment that you have no use for the American military state, you will get dropped like a fucking, you will get dropped, dude. Okay? They will use you, abuse you, and then spit you out. Hasan, Americans don't understand that kind of racism. They'll turn Benny Frank real quick to be like these garish, swarthy Ukrainians are not white by any means. These Slavs, you know, they'll fucking flip a script so fast. You'll be like, what? When did I not become? When am I? How did I not? I thought I was white. It's like, nope.
Allies of the United States, but they didn't have much else in common. In fact, Al-Qaeda showed up in Iraq only after the US invaded the country, dismantled the Iraqi army and security.
Is the TOS coming now? What part? Is it 339 you said? 319, okay.
Forces, and created a security vacuum that allowed all sorts of foreign fighters and violent groups to enter. tapping into anger at the US for invading a Muslim country, as well as the disgust at scandals like the torture at Abu Ghraib, Al-Qaeda was able to recruit and grow into something even more.
It's actually not even that bad. Here, it's just Abu Ghraib. You should see this photo. I'm sure you've already seen this photo. This is not a TO. This is one of the only non-TOS photos that you can see, but this is literally, this is, you know, America literally torturing motherfuckers. I think you should see this. If you haven't seen it, you should see this. This is a famous photo. The other ones where they make them like into naked human pyramids, those are, you know, terms of service violations, of, obviously. Context, I haven't seen this. This was a torture prison run by the United States military called Abu Ghraib. Okay? This is where they tortured people for fun. For funsies. You know? This is, of course, different than the other kind of torture, which the CIA called enhanced interrogation. This was just torture for the sake of funsies. Of course, if you want to know where, you know, America still tortures Muslims to this day, look no further than the Cuban landmass that we have on retainer as a permanent part of America's, you know, America's like very open black site. We have Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay. Ron DeSantis was the Navy oversight legal liaison on site, as we did some torture to Muslims without a fair trial at all, as a matter of fact. That one is still in operation. Oh, fuck, I remember Barack Obama ran on closing Gitmo, actually, if you guys remember that, but he never did. I wonder why. But yeah, electrocution, sexual assault, humiliation, murder, displaced, radicalized more Iraqis than anything. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Weird how, like, they didn't close Guantanamo Bay. Wonder why.
Torture at Abu Ghraib, Al-Qaeda was able to recruit and grow into something even more menacing. The invasion of Iraq propelled the group from a small, isolated organization into a genuinely global network that eventually became the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or Iraq and the Levant, as President Obama would say.
ISIL is a direct outgrowth of Al-Qaeda in Iraq that grew out.
The fucking biggest bag earner of our decade, okay, of our century maybe in media. Like, I cannot think of a man who just went from a Canadian government-funded newspaper, okay, that was a travel vlog created by like heroin addict hippies, okay, who turned around and got like a $100 million bag from Rupert Murdoch, okay, and just ran with it. Whoo! I'm talking, of course, about Shane Smith.
Out of our invasion.
This wonderful man right here. Oh, my Lord, dude. He literally fucking went in, pumped that shit up, was like, oh, yeah, we love giving you fucking opiates at, like, our parties. Do you want to fucking raise? Nah, don't worry about that. Suck my dick. Fucking, and he peaced out, dude. He peaced out. Sex, Drug, and Rock and Roll coffee table book 20 years ago. Anyway, yeah, he fucking sold it to Rupert Murdoch. Used to be homies with Gavin McInnes, by the way. Yeah, no, Gavin McInnes is one of the co-founders alongside Shane Smith. He was just forced out before Vice's heel turn and you know, just awesome shit that they do now. Like what the Saudis are doing in Yemen is not all that bad. They still have great journalists, obviously. Listen, I have friends that worked there back in the day, and there are still people that work there that are great. I'm just saying, you know, just like with every media outlet, there's some good people there, and then there's some times when they got to do what they got to do, you know, the State Department's bidding.
Which is an example of unintended consequences.
Those unintended consequences included Al-Qaeda sparking a sectarian civil war in Iraq by bombing some of the holiest sites in Shia Islam. They included hundreds of suicide and car bombings that killed thousands of Iraqis, and they included ISIS at one point controlling not just 40% of Iraq, but about a third of neighboring Syria as well. During the mid-2010s, the group was constantly in the headlines as it killed thousands and thousands of people, not just in Iraq and Syria, but also in Yemen, Saudi Arabia,
Turkey,
Kuwait, Bangladesh, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, France, Turkey, Belgium, Indonesia, Russia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Jordan, Germany, Somalia, the UK, Iran, the Philippines, Spain, Algeria, the United States, Nigeria, Sri Lanka. ISIS is no longer as powerful as it was, but it took years of a major US-led military operation that cost thousands more civilian lives, all to solve a problem created by the US occupying Iraq in the first place. Okay, remember that George W. Bush quote from a few minutes ago? This time, I'm going to play the first part of that soundbite as well.
For all those who ask whether the fight in Iraq is worth it, imagine an Iraq where militia groups backed by Iran control large parts of the country.
This is going to be a bit of a running theme here because, again, the US ended up causing the exact things it said it was invading Iraq to prevent. One of its goals in invading Iraq was to make the entire region friendlier to American interests.
Never forget that ISIS was forced out of, where was it? Was it? When ISIS was forced out of its, like, remaining enclave in Iraq, there was a very interesting thing. Was it Mosul? Yeah. There was a very interesting thing that happened that, like, a lot of people, for some weird reason, never really talk about. And that was American-backed British troops and British mercenaries and British trucks allowing the ISIS militants to escape Mosul. Just don't know how that happened, don't know what that means. I mean, even when you talk about Turkey's involvement with ISIS, for example, running schemes for, like oil and gas substitutes for gold bullions and money and weapons, that was done under America's watchful eye, for example. That wasn't in, you're right, it's not in Mosul, it was Raqqa, Syria. I'm so wrong. I apologize. That was in Raqqa. You're right. You're right. You're right. I was thinking of Syria, not Mosul. I was thinking of Raqqa. You are absolutely correct. No, not a rare Chat W. I rely on Chat heavily. Anyway, listen, I can't remember every little thing that America has done, okay? We've done a lot of fucked up shit. Sometimes I'm going to say it wrong, okay? Sometimes I'm going to mix up my Muslim nations that America has interfered in the affairs of. It's hard. Oh, you hate America? Name all their war crimes? Impossible. Don't have enough time to do so. Even you sometimes tell the truth. I'm going to be as charitable as possible to you and be as nice as possible to you. And I'm going to say this much. If you consider what I'm saying to be truthful now, you should probably tune in a little bit more frequently. You might hear something, you might hear a lot of statements that resemble exactly what you're hearing from me, and maybe not what you've heard from, I don't know, Discord servers that you engage in where they, cut, pick and choose, clip, chimp, and try to showcase me in this like least favorable way possible. Made and followed yesterday, yeah.
Instead, the war helped strengthen its biggest adversary there. Iran and the United States don't seem to ever agree on much, but in 2003, Saddam Hussein was a common enemy. Iranians hated him because in 1980, he had launched a war against them that lasted 8 years and left 500,000 people dead. It was a brutal war. Iraq used poison gas against Iranian soldiers, and the US helped prolong the fighting by sending weapons to both countries, although most of its support went to one side. So even as Iran was probably glad to see the end of Saddam, the US was strongly hinting that Iran could be next. Here's George W. Bush talking about Iran, Iraq, and North Korea a few months before invading Iraq.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world. And all nations should know America will do what is necessary to ensure our nation's security.
But something else happened. Iran, not the US, ended up benefiting the most from the invasion of Iraq. In less than 2 years, the US had ended the rule of Iran's enemies on both its eastern and western borders. Iran and the Taliban had bad blood between them too. Before the US invasion, Iraq was a buffer against Iran's presence in the Arab world. But after the invasion, Iraq became a foothold for Iranian influence to spread in neighboring countries. For example, Iran was able to build supply lines across Iraq to Syria, where Iranian-backed groups fought alongside Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad in that country's war. During the 1980s and 90s, Iran had cultivated and protected Iraqis who opposed Saddam's rule. And it was these Iranian-backed parties that dominated Iraqi politics after Saddam was gone. Today, posters of Iranian leaders hang all over Iraqi cities. Iranian commerce dominates the Iraqi market. And Iraq's security forces include powerful militias that are trained, supported, and sometimes even led by Iranians. It was these militias that helped defeat ISIS in Iraq. They fought on the ground with support from the US Air Force in the sky. Still, the US and Iran are adversaries. But the possibility of the US invading Iran the way it did Iraq, that's basically gone from next on the list to effectively zero. Because the invasion of Iraq very quickly changed America itself and its commitment to these kinds of wars. Here's how. It might seem odd now, but the war was actually very popular with Americans at first. USA! USA! That didn't last long. Almost everything that had been used to justify the war turned out to be a lie, including how quick it was supposed to be. Over 4,000 American soldiers were killed, and it took the US more than 8 years to withdraw from Iraq without much to show for it, other than, as we've seen, the strengthening of Iran and the spread of ISIS. Turns out the US wasn't able to impose its will.
Is Al Jazeera Plus, which is like oftentimes pretty fucking good in its coverage of American imperialism, is it just going to become more and more of a fucking like Wahhabist weirdo outlet as like I don't know, as like relationship with Qatar and the United States become better and better? Is that what's happening? Because like they have literally they normally would never. I am not talking about Al Jazeera in general, okay? Al Jazeera, the other side of it, sometimes not great, okay? But it is odd that, like, I mean, this video is like, this video could be way more blisteringly anti-U.S. and also, you know, they're like surprisingly talking about Iran more. Al Jazeera Plus is Al Jazeera's division made for Americans. Yes, I know. I've appeared on Al Jazeera Plus. I have friends that used to work for Al Jazeera Plus. Like when back in the day before, I guess, Current TV was a television channel owned by Al Gore when I worked at the Young Turks, and the Young Turks had a Current TV show. Then Current TV got sold to Al Jazeera, and Al Jazeera basically kept some of those journalists on. A lot of my coworkers went and worked for Al Jazeera. When I saw you in the office, the employees were a lot better than they are now. What? Yeah, a lot of the good people have left Al Jazeera Plus. When I saw you in the office, Shobahu, the employees were a lot better off than they are now. Yeah. I can't believe you Will worked for Al Jazeera. No, Will never worked for Al Jazeera. What the fuck? Al Jazeera was, I think, Al Jazeera's coverage was definitely better back
on another country by force. Bush, who at one point had a 90% approval rating, ended his presidency with just 22% of Americans approving of him. After Bush, the next two presidents both insisted they'd always opposed the war, unlike the political establishments in both parties who had backed it.
Many of us looking at the evidence ahead of time understood that there was not an imminent threat.
Bottom line, there were no weapons of mass destruction. They said there are weapons of mass destruction. I was against the war when it started.
But the U.S. war machine didn't stop after Iraq.
I have to pee.
It adapted. Today, you won't hear many American politicians talk about Bush-style goals like nation building or regime change. Instead, U.S. military power is deployed in small doses all over the world for assassinations or other special forces missions. Drones, missiles, airstrikes, all these let the U.S. hit targets from thousands of miles away without American troops being in harm's way. That's made the drone program much more popular than the Iraq War. But drone warfare isn't clean. These strikes have killed thousands of civilians, with drone pilots often unable to tell exactly who they're targeting. And since the drone program is directly under the president's control, it's given American presidents the power to execute people all over the world, including, in several cases, American citizens. The Iraq War was always going to be a disaster on so many levels. It was also an illegal war.
It's not in conformity with the UN Charter from our point of view, and from the Charter point of view, it was illegal.
But the US insisted it was above such rules and that it had a right to preemptively attack whoever it wanted. Most of the world refused to go along.
When we went in, there were three countries, Great Britain, Australia, and the United States. That's not a grand coalition. We can do better. 30 seconds. Well, actually,
are you honk shoeing and memeing because the United States is once again violating international rule of law that was created specifically so that the United States can bully anyone and everyone they want and claim that they're violating international laws so that they could justifiably invade those countries even though they themselves were in violation of international law? Is that why you're sleeping? Is that why you're honk shoeing and fucking memeing? Or are you honk shoeing and memeing because the top of the hour is upon us and there's a 3-minute ad break? But wake up to the reality that if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you can get one free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that favorite broadcaster is me. You can also get gifted a sub if you are lucky. Here is the 3-minute ad break now. Honk shoe on my me till I fall asleep. Who's more evil, George Bush or Tony Blair? George Bush. Easy.
Forgot Poland.
The problem with acting like you're above the law is that it gives others an excuse to break the rules as well. Listen to Bernie Sanders, at the time one of the only people in Congress opposing the war, warning of those consequences.
If President Bush believes that the U.S. can go to war at any time against any nation, what moral or legal obligation could our government raise if another country chose to do the same thing?
In the years since, we've seen that playing out all over the world. Governments breaking international law and committing war crimes with impunity, whether they're cracking down on dissent, stealing territory, or invading other countries. But maybe the guy at the heart of it all saw a link between what he set in motion in Iraq in 2003 and Russia invading Ukraine in 2022.
The decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, anyway.
Iraq too. Anyway. My God, my Lord, what a self-report, dude. What a self-report that is.
Conservative estimates say that around 300,000 people were killed because of America's decision to illegally invade Iraq, although the real number is probably much higher. In Iraq today, sectarianism is rife, the economy is weak, poverty is widespread, basic services are sporadic, and the security situation is, in many places, still dangerous.
لأن مجرد دخولها كان هو مأساوي يعني وحطمت وقتلت ودخل الإرهاب والمجرمين وغيرها والقاعدة.
إنه بالدهورة صارت يعني يا ريت قبل الحرب كان.
Wait, that's so weird. Wait, I'm so confused. What? I saw CBS saying how fucking wonderful it was that America invaded Iraq, though. speak American. What the fuck? Yeah, they went. They even. Well, they didn't get the Iraqi people to say that. Those words are going to be hard to come from the mouths of Iraqi people. So they basically interviewed the Iraqi people after. It was the American journalist that said those words, where he said, you know, the liberation took place or whatever. You can still probably find Iraqi people that will say that, though, but regardless.
20 years on, Iraqis are still dealing with the consequences of that invasion every day. But what about the consequences for the government officials who lied to justify the war? Or for the media that repeated so many of those lies instead of investigating them? To find out, you'll want to watch this video.
Oh, this is manufacturing consent. This is how the United States manufacture consent. Anyway, let's get back to
Exactly.
I want to go through American and British propaganda in between like real news.
20 years ago, US forces with the UK and other allies in order to oust dictator Saddam Hussein. It was part of what the US called its war on terror, begun by President George W. Bush after the 9/11 terrorist attack in 2001. Our international editor Jeremy Bowen has been taking a look back at the consequences and sent this report from Mosul.
A lot of the old city of Mosul hasn't been rebuilt yet. It was destroyed in 2017 during the war to eradicate the jihadists of the Caliphate of Islamic State. It was really nasty, house-to-house fighting. And it went on for months. I was here at the time, and a lot of civilians, as well as fighters, were killed. The rise and fall.
Blowback season 1 covers this stuff so perfectly. For the record, if you have any like if you have any interest in fully understanding like what happened in the lead up and also aftermath, highly recommend Blowback season 1.
Fall of Islamic State, also known as ISIS, was part of an unfolding catastrophe that engulfed Iraq and was felt right across the Middle East. Now, a lot of it goes back to March 2003. That was when the Americans and the British and their allies invaded Iraq. The Americans called the massive air raids with which they opened the war shock and awe. They claimed, wrongly, that this was the way to make...
Wow, wrongly. Well, I guess the British have, despite their own personal involvement, I guess that at least the British broadcasters are openly stating it. Notice how it's very different from the American assessment of the situation.
Make the Middle East safer for everyone. Within weeks, they'd removed the Iraqi dictator, Saddam Hussein. Another false claim was that he had weapons of mass destruction. The US Navy flew President George W. Bush out to an aircraft carrier where he declared victory.
The tyrant has fallen and Iraq is free.
He could not have been more wrong. The Americans hadn't worked out how they were going to replace Saddam Hussein's regime. In the end, they imposed a system that turned sectarian and ethnic groups against each other. In the years of chaos and violence that followed, hundreds of thousands of Iraqis were killed. No one knows how many exactly, as armed groups fought each other, fought the Americans, and killed each other's civilians. Much of Mosul and other cities has been rebuilt. There are bright spots. As for the West, the Americans and the British, the invaders, a lot of the world just laughs when they talk about peace or international law because of what happened here. But what matters most is the effect on the lives of millions of people, not just in Iraq, but...
Yep. That's why, to that fucking chatter, Bowies, I still remember your name, motherfucker. When you come to me and you talk about the International Criminal Court, when you talk about Vladimir Putin, okay, and you're like, dude, oh, what? How dare you? How dare you fucking talk shit about the ICC? Like, we have a fucking law in our country that dictates that we can fucking invade The Hague if any American service member or even family member of like an American service member, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is ever extradited to be under the legal scrutiny of the International Criminal Court.
Across the wider Middle East, who suffered and died because of the invasion and its consequences. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Mosul.
We know where your kids live, how John Bolton once threatened an international official. John Bolton is a bully, said Jose Bustani, a retired Brazilian diplomat. I don't know how people can work for him, who is the former head of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, apparently. There are a number of people who claim to have been bullied or intimidated by Bolton, including Bustani. The latter's criticism of the famously mustachioed hawk have been public for many years now. In 2002, a year before the invasion of Iraq, the Bush administration was putting intense pressure on Bustani to quit as Director General of the OPCW, despite the fact that he had been unanimously reelected to head the 145-nation body just 2 years earlier. His transgression, negotiating with Saddam Hussein's Iraq to allow OPCW weapons inspectors to make unannounced visits on the country, thereby undermining Washington's rationale for regime change. There's always this very consistent thing. There's this consistent thread between what America does to the international community when they are literally speaking out against America's lies, okay? Like, going back to the ICC conversation that we were having, like, the fact that the head of the ICC is sanctioned by the United States government should tell you everything you need to know about who the bad guys are, okay? In almost every circumstance. We are the baddies. Oh, one last thing I want to talk about here. This is huge. LAUSD strike looms with districts still hopeful for resolution, but a strike is happening.
LAUSD strike. All schools could shut down tomorrow if the union can't reach a deal with the district.
Yeah, Eyewitness News reporter Shayla Girardin live in North Hollywood with the details for us. Shayla.
Yes, the district says they are ready for that closure, but they are still hoping that they can reach an agreement with the union by tomorrow. That is the deadline. But as for the union, they are still set to strike. Now, thousands of employees are planning to strike tomorrow, and this is going to shut down all LAUSD schools. Most recently, the LA Unified District lost a round in its legal battle to stop the walkout. California's Public Employment Relations Board denied a request for an injunction, and now the district is waiting on a decision about the legality of the strike. But the risk of a walkout still looms this morning.
We're not getting an equitable wage to feed families, have housing. A lot of people that do work for LAUSD have to work 2 jobs.
I respect the right of workers to strike, but I'm here to convey to the workforce directly.
Bro, this fucking dude, is this the guy who apparently gets paid like a fuckload of money? Is that, hold on. Or is it another dude? Am I mistaken this? Hold up. Yeah, it's him. How much do you think this guy makes? If you know the answer, don't write it in the chat. How much? You're Googling it. You're already Googling it. You're Googling it. Would you be surprised if I were to tell you it's like $200,000? Would you be surprised if I lied to you and the actual number is $300,000? A year, yes. Would you be surprised if I lied to you once again? It's actually $400,000. Just kidding. I lied one more time. It's $440,000 a year. The LA Unified School District Superintendent salary is $440,000 annually. He makes more than Gavin Newsom. He makes more than the motherfucking president. Yeah, someone in the chat said, yeah, the cost of living is really high in LA. Yeah, it is, which is kind of the point of the strikes that are happening right now with like the special education, with the special education people that are striking. He's on his grind, don't hate. The board, along with parent groups and teachers, are optimistic as they look to Carvalho's track record of improving student achievement as he begins his 4-year contract with the school district, which will pay him $440,000 a year. Anyway, it's just funny to say. He said he respects the right of workers to strike, but like his job is literally to stop that from happening. Anyway.
That we have not exhausted the resources to put on the table.
SEIU Local 99 represents around 30,000 district employees. This includes custodians, bus drivers, and cafeteria workers. Many are part-time employees seeking full-time jobs. LAUSD does say that it's offering a 15% increase. Now, the strike, if it happens, would last until Thursday, and there are going to be extra resources for parents and students throughout the week. In North Hollywood, Shayla Gerard and ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Shayla, thank you. Meantime, LA Mayor Karen Bass has announced city support for LAUSD families.
Another person who he makes more money than Karen Bass, broke boy. Okay, get your money up, not your funny up, Karen. He makes so much money. Lower CA taxing, he wouldn't make that much money. Yeah, interesting you say that, because I think when he was the Miami-Dade superintendent, okay, let's see what his salary was. Because, you know, Florida. Hold on. How do I find this? What's his name again? What is it? Alberto Carvalho. Not Anthony. Sorry. Oh, wow. Well, the new person's salary was $370,000 a year. The person who replaced him was making $370,000 a year. So I guess maybe it's not the taxes. I'm just saying. That's a lot of tacos. DSA LA. Yeah, on March 15th, we gave out 2,000 free tacos to our Los Angeles public school workers. Yeah, there's a massive 3-day LAUSD teacher and staff strike set for Tuesday, closing all schools. There was a big rally. He's negotiating around the clock, which he said would further harm the more than 420,000 students trying to recover academically and emotionally from the COVID-19 pandemic. Breaking its official, LAUSD Superintendent Albert Coverup says schools will be closed tomorrow due to a worker strike. The district was not able to come to an agreement with the SEIU negotiators, so students will miss at least one day of classroom learning. As of literally 5 minutes ago, Elix Michelson reports breaking news. He was just not able to. They could not find a compromise.
That we have not exhausted the resources to put on the table.
SEIU Local 99 represents around 30,000 district employees. This includes custodians, bus drivers, and cafeteria workers.
Yeah, remember, cafeteria workers, custodians, bus drivers, special needs students, staff. These are the people that are the separate union that is demanding higher pay, like a better scale for cost of living, a better cost of living adjustment, basically.
Many are part-time employees seeking full-time jobs. LAUSD does say that it's offering a 15% increase. Now, the strike, if it happens, would last until Thursday, and there are going to be extra resources for parents and students throughout the week. In North Hollywood, Shayla Gerard and ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Shayla, thank you. Meantime, LA Mayor Karen Bass has announced city support for LAUSD families. Bass says the city's Department of Recreation and Parks will offer 21 recreation centers to serve as grab-and-go locations as part of LAUSD's food distribution program. There will also be a free after-school program at 30 recreation centers for elementary students. The LA Zoo will also offer free admission to all students, and all libraries will be open.
That's fire. I mean, kind of fire for kids to have a day off. I know that this is terrible for the parents, obviously, especially like low paid, constantly working parents who are not going to be able to make up for the childcare in a pinch or take time off work. But hey, like, look, you can make a little group and go to the zoo. This is going to make the kids pro-union. Okay, I don't want to fucking watch this again. I'm going to lose my mind. We're done with the Iraq portion. Why haven't you single-handedly funded the school? You're right. I fucked up. Tucker speaks more convincingly on this than most Democrats, and that's probably bad since the right tends to enjoy populism mingled with fascism.
If you wake up one morning and you find yourself in a society where 23-year-olds with 4-year college degrees and like initiative.
Anyway, let's watch Tucker Carlson while I wait.
Smoking weed every day, if they can't make enough to buy a car, much less a home, much less get married, much less have children, then why should you be surprised when half of them say they prefer socialism?
Well,
you should not be surprised.
I agree to a certain extent. I think that the question is when the pedal hits the metal. Like you talk in the book about technology and how it's shifting and taking away jobs from folks. Yes. And you make specific reference to truck driving and the fact that there are going to be these automated cars on the road.
I hate when Tucker Carlson does leftist takes like this because I know what the real reason is as to why he's saying this. Look, see, when I first found out about you, I was told bad things, but I came and listened to you and started my journey to make more progressive views. Thank you. Exactly. It's for people like this that I do what I do. When I move with purpose in a way that you don't understand immediately, that is the purpose.
So would you, Tucker Carlson, be in favor of restrictions on the ability of trucking companies to use this sort of technology specifically to sort of artificially maintain the number of jobs that are available in the trucking industry?
Are you joking? In a second. In a second.
And the fact that there are going to be these automated cars on the roads. So would you, Tucker Carlson, be in favor of restrictions on the ability of trucking companies to use this sort of technology specifically to, sort of artificially maintain the number of jobs that are available in the trucking industry?
Are you joking? In a second. In a second. In other words, if I were president, when I say to DOT, to Department of Transportation, we're not letting driverless trucks on the road, period. Why? Really simple. Driving for a living is the single most common job for high school educated men in this country. In all 50.
He is such a piece of shit because he never would do that. Why would he never do that? Because that would undermine capital. Okay? That would undermine the bottom line of logistics, of corporations that engage in logistics and in delivery. And Tucker Carlson is a dog to billionaires. That is how he makes his money. He might have a vested interest in the formation of a WASP nationalist state. That might be a legitimate thing that he's interested in, maybe in his heart of hearts. But ultimately, he has always been a lapdog of billionaires. That's why he has a job at Fox News. Okay? The real answer to this, by the way, is not that automation is a problem. The real answer to this is that automation is a solution to take away some of the workload from the workers. Okay? That's it. Like, the reality here is that automation should never be a problem. When mankind figured out how to do the wheel, you know what I mean? They didn't do it so that it would genuinely improve the bottom line of some corporation, okay, of some shareholders at a faceless, lifeless board meeting. They did it because it made lives easier. It improved lives, right? They happened upon it, and ultimately they used it for good.